Hello friends. Now in this part of the session I'll be taking up the chapter of estimation of working capital. So let us understand the estimation of working capital. Now I hope at least by this time you would be aware how we actually start our chapter. We'll always have to discuss meaning, then we will discuss the objective, and we have the scope. So we have meaning, objective and scope. Scope automatically when the lecture is going to progress I'll be discussing that. But let's first start with the meaning of this chapter. First of all, tell me, what do you understand by the word working capital? You would say working capital, sir, is nothing but current assets minus current liabilities, or I would say excess of current assets over current liabilities is working capital. That's it. That's the meaning of the term working capital. Excess of current asset over current liability is working capital. Now, why this chapter? What is the reason for which this chapter is kept in our syllabus? What value addition we are going to get out of this chapter? So let's understand the same with the help of an example. Now, first question. Let's take it this way. Suppose we are planning to start a new business. Suppose we are planning to start a new business. Now, to start a new business or to run your existing business, do you agree we need money? To start a new business or to run your existing business, definitely we need money. That is popularly called as capital. So the question that I'll now ask you is, how much to raise? How much to raise depends on what? How much we are planning to invest. Invest where? Suppose friends, let's presume that we are planning to start business of manufacturing and selling biscuits. Now can I say, to manufacture and to sell that biscuits, to produce that biscuits, we will require fixed asset? Of course, yes, we will require fixed asset. So with the help of the chapter of capital budgeting, we realize which fixed asset we should go for, and our research indicated that we will require fixed asset of rupees 9 lakh. So my dear friends, should I raise 9 lakh rupees only? What is your view? What do you think? Should I arrange only 9 lakh? You people will definitely say no sir. Then I would ask the same question. Why not? Because you people will be aware that these fixed assets cannot work on their own. Understand the wordings what I'm using. These fixed assets cannot work on their own. So can I say, for smooth working of these fixed assets, for smooth working of the business, we will require extra capital. For smooth working of the business, we will require extra capital, and that extra capital that will be required will be called as working capital. So here now the question is, how much extra capital I will require? How much extra capital I will require? How will I come to know that, friends? How much extra capital I will require? Just look at the name of the chapter. We will have to estimate that. So we will have to estimate how much extra money we will require over and above the requirement for fixed asset. Suppose, let's presume I have learned the chapter of estimation and I realize that I'll require extra 1 lakh rupees. So what will happen? I'll not just raise 9 lakh, but I will raise 1 lakh extra. Means I will now raise total 10 lakh, out of which 9 lakh will be used in buying the fixed assets and 1 lakh will be required for smooth working of this business. This 1 lakh that I'll require for smooth working of this business will be termed as my working capital. Now, so what is this motive of this chapter? What is the objective of this chapter? This chapter will help us to determine how much extra capital we will require, so that we can come to know how much extra capital we should raise to meet our working capital requirements. So the object of this chapter is not to teach us fixed assets के लिए कितना चाहिए, वो पता चल गया अपने को. For smooth working of this fixed asset, how much extra capital I will require, that answer to this question is going to be given by this chapter. Because this I already know, ये मुझे पता चल गया, I will need 9 lakh for fixed assets. But for smooth working of this fixed assets, how much extra capital I will require, the answer to that question will be given by this chapter. So if I write the objective of this chapter, it will help me to give the answer to this question: how much extra capital should be raised for smooth working of business. For smooth working of business. The answer to this question will be given by this chapter. Just understand that, friends. Answer is also very much simple. How much extra capital I will raise? First of all, tell me, how do we calculate the working capital? You would say, sir, working capital is nothing but current assets minus the current liabilities. Perfect. So what am I supposed to do, friends? I'm just supposed to find out how much of our money is expected to be locked up in the form of current assets, and what are going to be the current liabilities. So current assets minus the current liability is going to give me the working capital. So our job is simply to find out what will be the level of current assets, what will be the level of current liabilities. Current assets minus current liability, whatever amount I will get, that much amount I need to raise. But friends, can I say the level of current asset in turn depends on the level of stock. It depends upon the level of debtors and the level of cash bank. So what we need to do is we need to find out how much of our money is expected to be locked up in the form of stock, how much is going to be locked up in the form of debtors, how much we plan to maintain in a business to meet our contingencies. Once I get to know the level of stock, debtors and cash bank, I'll come to know the level of current assets. Subtract the current liabilities, we'll get the working capital. Which are the major current liabilities which every company will have? Every company will have creditors, and then I would just give a heading, general heading, other current liabilities. So if I can somehow manage to know what will be the level of creditors, how much will be the other current liabilities, then I'll get to know the current liabilities. Subtract it from current assets, we'll get the working capital. That much money I should raise. Now friends, tell me the level of stock. Can I say how much is locked up in the form of stock? The level of stock itself is dependent on what? Level of stock of raw material. It is based on stock of WIP. The level of stock is based on stock of FG. So if I can say this way, if I can somehow manage to get what? How much of my money is going to be locked up in the form of raw material? How much is going to be locked up in the form of WIP? How much about finished goods? It will give me my money getting locked up in the form of stock. How much is going to be locked up in debtors? How much cash bank, creditors, other current liabilities? This will give me current assets. Subtract the current liabilities, I'll get some amount. That much extra capital you need to raise. So in this chapter, friends, what am I supposed to do? I'm just supposed to find out these levels of current assets and the current liabilities. Once I get to know these level of current assets and current liabilities, I'll come to know working capital, that much money I should raise. This is the whole objective of this chapter. So this chapter will help me to get the answer to this question: how much extra capital should be raised for smooth working of the business? So our motive, our objective in this entire chapter is to find out these levels of current assets and the current liabilities. How it is to be done, that is a later part of discussion. But at present, what I'll be now going to do is I'll slightly shift to some other discussion Because once I discuss that point, estimation is rhetoric, friends. Believe me, estimation is rhetoric. Same thing we need to do again and again, just a variation here and there. So but before I figure out all these values and how the values are to be determined, we'll deviate from our topic of estimation and we'll discuss something else at present. Believe me, suddenly you will realize that estimation is so much easy task. Now how it is to be done, but that is a later part of discussion. So let me move on to the next topic here, and the topic that I want to discuss now here, friends, is a concept of working capital operating cycle. I'm again telling you, we are not going to discuss at present how this estimation is done. I'm just slightly deviating from this topic and I'm suddenly taking up the next topic. Believe me, by the end of my discussion, you will realize that estimation is बहुत easy है. Now, working capital operating cycle. What exactly do we mean by working capital operating cycle? I'll go this way. The process of conversion of cash back into cash is working capital operating cycle. I will again repeat. The process of conversion of cash back into cash is working capital operating cycle. Means, I would say this way, the process of cash which is used to purchase raw material to again get converted back into cash as realization from debtors. This is entire process. This process is called working capital operating cycle. Did you get this? The cash which is used, and why will you use this cash? Will use to purchase raw material. This raw material will then turn into WIP. Then finished goods will be ready. You will sell it, so debtors will come into existence. From that debtors, can I say, will again get cash. So this is an entire cycle. This cycle is termed as working capital operating cycle. For better understanding, let's take it this way. So we have cash. So what will I do? With the help of this cash, I will now purchase raw material. This raw material will then enter into the process, and once the process is over, finished goods will be ready. And once the finished goods are ready, then debtors will come into existence if you sell it on credit. And what will happen? From these debtors, can I say, you will again get cash, through which you'll again purchase raw material, WIP, finished goods, debtors, and believe me, this cycle continues throughout the year. This cycle, which we have just calculated, is termed as working capital operating cycle. That is, the process of cash which is getting converted back into cash is called working capital operating cycle. Now in my example here, I am at present assuming that the purchases is done on cash of raw material, but it could have been possibility that you may get purchases on credit. You can do it on credit. So I can say this way, if you purchase material from your creditors, so we will have creditors from whom we will get raw material. This material will enter into the process, finished goods will be ready, we'll sell it on credit, and debtors will come into existence. From debtors, can I say, we will get cash. And what will I do with this cash? It will be used to pay to the creditors. So this is an entire cycle, friends. So I can say this way, the process of conversion of cash back into cash is working capital operating cycle. That is the process of cash which is used to pay whom? We pay to whom? To the creditors. For what? For purchasing raw material to again get converted back into cash. But this time it is getting converted back into cash as realization from debtors. This is one entire cycle, friends. This cycle is called working capital operating cycle. And friends, do you agree? It's going to be just a minute's process. मिनट्स प्रोसेस, 1 मिनट में ये साइकिल कंप्लीट हो जाएगा? नो, this entire cycle is going to take time. It takes time for this conversion of cash back into cash, and the time that it will take for this cash to become cash, the time that it is going to take for this cash to become cash is called duration of operating cycle. The time which it is going to take for this conversion of cash back into cash, this total time is termed as the duration of this operating cycle. So if I now tell you calculate the duration of this cycle, मतलब what am I telling you कि आज अगर मेरे जेब से रोकड़ा निकला to buy materials, वापस ये रोकड़ा कितने टाइम के बाद मुझे मिलेगा? I want to know this time. This time is called the duration of operating cycle. How it is calculated? Let's understand that. Okay, so the next point of the discussion now is to calculate duration of operating cycle. Duration of operating cycle. Now for the time being, let us assume that we are making the purchases on cash. Then in some time I'll just change my assumption. So let us presume we are purchasing all materials on cash. मेरा ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है फ्रेंड्स, वो देखो अब मेरा ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है. एक बार मेरे जेब से आज रोकड़ा निकला, वापस ये रोकड़ा कस्टमर के पास से कितने टाइम में आ रहा है? ओके, सपोज we purchase raw materials. Now, the moment I purchase this raw material, cash is removed today to purchase raw material. So I'll purchase raw material and I'll pay cash. So can I say immediately my cash now has taken form of raw material? My cash has now taken form of raw material. अब जैसे ही raw material आएगा, क्या तुरंत प्रोसेसिंग में डाल देंगे क्या? नहीं. You will never immediately present it to the production process. What will happen? There will be some material which would be already in process. Once that processing of existing material is done, then only this new material will be introduced. मतलब अगर आप विजुअलाइज करो, मैं ब्रिटानिया इंडस्ट्रीज की अगर बात करूं यहाँ पे, तो कहने से ब्रिटानिया इंडस्ट्रीज के गोडाउन में व्हीट फ्लावर, एडिबल ऑयल, शुगर्स रॉ फॉर्म में पड़े ही होंगे वहां पे. Obviously, anytime if you go and visit their godown, there will be raw material in the form of wheat flour, edible oil, sugars and all. Why do they keep that? Because they know that they can't halt their production process. So existing material जब तक process में है, raw material आपको वहां पर मिलेगा. जैसे ये खत्म हो जाएगा, new material will be introduced into the process. And the moment you introduce the new material into the process, again they will keep stock of raw material. मतलब do you agree friends? At any given point of time, उनके गोडाउन में raw material मिलेगा हमको. That means for some time raw material always stays in our warehouse. Now let's presume this way. Today I removed cash from my pocket and I purchased raw material. The moment the raw material is purchased, it will not be entering into the production process. It will be kept in our godown for some time. That means we are holding the raw material. So let us presume from the date of purchase, the raw material remains in our godown for an average of 30 days. So what does it mean, friends? If I now use the wording, I can say this is average holding period of raw material, and let's presume it is 30 days. Could you please do this interpretation for me? 30 days. What does it mean? मेरा ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है? मेरे जेब से आज कैश निकला ना, तो मुझे वापस वो कैश कितने टाइम में मिल रहा है वो ढूंढना है. तो कैन आई से आई एम रिमूविंग कैश फ्रॉम माय पॉकेट टुडे, purchased raw material, and my cash stays in the form of a raw material for an average of 30 days. I will again repeat. I have removed cash today, and what did I do with this cash? I purchased raw material. So can I say my cash has taken form of raw material? Yes. it stays in the form of raw material for an average for how many days? 30 days. Now, once the 30 days time is going to be getting over, the raw material would then enter the process. अब क्या प्रोसेसिंग भी 2 मिनट का टाइम होगा क्या? नहीं. Even processing takes time. So let's presume this way, it takes 10 days time to convert raw material into finished goods. The average time for processing is 10 days. So what will happen? If I am removing cash today from my pocket to buy raw material, it will remain in the form of raw material for 30 days. Then the raw material will enter into the process. Can I say on top of it, another 10 days, it will be locked up. My cash will be locked up in the form of WIP now. So counting from today, 40 days के लिए मेरा पैसा तो ऐसे ही दिख रहा है, ब्लॉक हो गया. Now what is this 10 days time? It is the processing time. It is the conversion period. So I'll say there will be average conversion period of what? Of WIP, and let's take it this way, it is 10 days. So my dear friends, could you please think about this and tell me, ये जो फिलहाल total 40 days दिख रहा है वो क्या है? Counting from today, my cash gets locked up for 40 days. Out of that, it will be locked up in the form of raw material for 30 days. Another 10 days, it will be locked up in the form of WIP. Acha. Once the processing is over, finished goods will be ready. And can I say, customers तो बाहर लाइन लगा के खड़े रहते हैं. Customers will be standing in a queue asking for the biscuits. अरे हमको biscuits दे दो, हमको biscuit. ऐसा होता है क्या? नहीं. Customers can come at any point of time. They can come at any point of time. So if the customers can come at any point of time, you can't tell the customers, customer एक काम कर 40 days के बाद आ. क्यों? क्योंकि आज तूने ऑर्डर प्लेस किया है ना, तो मैं मटेरियल बाय करूंगा, 30 डेज के लिए गोडाउन में रखूंगा, 10 डेज प्रोसेसिंग जाएगा, 40 डेज के बाद बिस्किट्स मिलेगा. तो यू कम आफ्टर 40 डेज. व्हाट विल कस्टमर से? रख तेरा बिस्किट तेरे पास, मैं कहीं और से ले लेगा. So what will happen then? To meet the need of our customers, can I say, we always have to stock finished goods, because customers can come at any given point of time. So let's presume once the finished goods are ready, they are kept in a godown for an approx of 45 days. So what is this now? What is this? This is the average holding period of finished goods. So I would say this way, then we have average holding period of finished goods. Holding period of finished goods, and we are assuming that it is 45 days. Friends, could you please do this interpretation for me of this 85 days? ये 85 days का interpretation करो. Counting from today, if I am removing cash from my pocket, this cash will be locked up for a period of 85 days. 30 days it will be locked up in the form of raw material. Another 10 days it will be locked up in the form of WIP, and on top of it another 45 days it will be locked up in the form of finished goods. So 85 days के लिए तो मेरा पैसा ऐसे ही दिख रहा है, locked up हो गया. Now it is the industry practice to offer credit period to our customers, so I also have to follow the industry practice. So I decided that even I will have to give credit period. So I offered 60 days credit period. Or I can say this way, usually we are able to collect money from our customers within a span of 60 days. What does it mean? For 85 days, the paisa is just locked up in the form of stock. On top of it, another 60 days, it is getting locked up in the form of debtors, So can I conclude that is nothing but the average collection period? Average collection period is 60 days. So I can say this way, friends, counting from today, my cash is getting locked up for a period of how many days? 145 days. This I can term it as gross duration. This can be termed as gross duration. Means what? Counting from today, आज अगर मैंने मेरा पैसा निकाला, तो यही पैसा मुझे after आफ्टर 145 days मिलेगा as realization from debtors. From the gross duration, we will now subtract the average payment period. So less average payment period. Now suppose the average payment period is say 15 days. Average payment period is 15 days. Now why am I deducting it? Just give me a minute, I'll explain you. So now my net duration becomes 130 days. Now why am I deducting this creditor's payment period? I'll explain you this way. If I'm assuming my purchases are on cash, suppose we made purchases on cash on 1st of April. Can I say counting from today, that is 1st April, मुझे मेरा पैसा after 145 days मिलेगा? Do you agree? Counting from today, I'll be getting back my money in 145 days. अब next question. Suppose suppliers बोलते हैं ठीक है चल तू मेरे से माल लेके जा 15 दिन के बाद पेमेंट कर, तो क्या मेरा आउटफ्लो आज होगा फ्रेंड्स? Will my outflow occur today? No, my purchases will be done on 1st only, but my outflow will start, can I say, on 16th. So if it is going to start from 16th, so can I say counting from here till here, the time that is it is getting taking for my cash to become cash is going to be 130 days only. So मेरे जेब से रोकड़ा कब जाएगा? 16th. Counting from 16 till 145 days, can I say my money locked up is 130 days? Hence I am deducting it. Though my purchases will be done here, but I am not interested in finding out the purchases. My job is कि आज अगर मेरे जेब से पैसा गया तो वापस मेरे जेब में कितने टाइम में आएगा? That is what I am interested in knowing. So it's going to take 130 days for me. Hence we deducted this average payment period. Now, so what is the definition of the term working capital operating cycle? Let me change the scenario here again and I'll make it on credit purchases because nothing specified. We are always to assume all purchases to be on credit. So this is creditors. So I would say this way, the process of conversion of cash back into cash is working capital operating cycle. That is the cash that is used to pay whom? To creditors. For what? For purchases made of raw material to again get converted back into cash as realization from debtors. This entire cycle is called working capital operating cycle, and the time that it takes to convert this cash back into cash is called the duration of working capital operating cycle. And friends, you would appreciate the fact, can I say, the shorter this duration, the better it is. Obviously yes, जितना अपना कैश अपने को वापस जल्दी मिल जाए वो हमेशा बेटर होगा. So shorter the duration, always the better. Is it okay? Can you do one more interpretation of this 130 days please for me? Can you do one more interpretation for me of this 130 days? क्या लगता है? What according to you does this 130 days mean? I can tell you this way, you have to arrange money such that you survive for at least 130 days. Sir, why 130 days? We want to survive not just for 130 days. We want our business to run continuously years and years and years and years. Why are you telling 130 days only? Because after 130 days rolling start हो जाएगा, रोकड़ा मिलना शुरू हो जाएगा. That can be reused in the business. So arrange money today in such a way that you survive for at least 130 days. And if you survive for 130 days, then what will happen? Post 130 days rolling will start. Customers will start giving you money that can be reused in the business and the cycle can continue. So this is all about your working capital operating cycle. Now what type of questions can come in the exam out of this part? One, they will tell you calculate the duration of operating cycle. If they tell you calculate the duration, sometimes they will give you all these values as it is in the question. These values are already given. Our job is to just prepare a table, summarize these values and get the net duration. it might happen that in many of the questions, they might not give you these values. Now, if they don't give you these values, it means we'll have to calculate these durations. So how will you calculate these durations? Let's understand. So we have to understand few formulas, and those formulas will help us to get the duration of these working capital. So let's understand the formulas, friends. I'm again telling you, in some cases these values will be upfront given. For some cases you won't be having these values, and since values won't be given, you will be given scattered data, and through that scattered data you will have to find out the duration. Now, how will I calculate average holding period of raw material? How do you think we'll calculate average holding period of raw material? Tell me, charters. The formula is what? It is average stock of raw material. Now friends, tell me, why do we keep raw material? We keep raw material in the godown to use it, to consume it. So stock of raw material is always going to be dependent on how much we are going to use, how much we are going to consume. So average stock of raw material by raw material consumed. Now if I want the duration to be in days, then I'll multiply it with 365, else I go for 52 or else 12. That will give me average holding period of raw material. We keep raw material in our godown so that we can use it for the process. No यार, just visualize Britannia के केस में raw material godown में क्यों पड़ा है? Why do they keep raw material? So that it can be used into the business. Now, before I discuss average conversion period of WIP, I would first take up holding period of FG. So I'll say average holding period of FG. Now, why do we keep the stock of finished goods in the godown? So that we can sell it. So what people would say, sir, we'll go for this. Average stock of finished goods by, we keep stock in our godown so that we can sell it. So many people will shout, sir, we should take sales because the stock of FG is based on sales. We keep stock of finished goods so that we can sell it. Now, if you keep sales into the denominator, the problem that is being done by us, the blunder that we are committing is finished goods stock is always at cost. Stock is always at cost, and sales, can I say, includes element of profit. So more appropriate thing in this case would have been not to write sales but eliminate the margin from that sales, and the moment I eliminate the margin from it, can I say it's going to be COGS. So stock of finished goods is based on cost of the goods sold. Are you getting it what I'm telling you? So cost of holding period of FG, it is average stock of FG by cost of goods sold. Now, so stock of raw material is based on material consumed. We keep stock so that we can use it. We keep stock so that we can sell it. Okay. Now, what about average conversion period of WIP? It will be nothing but average stock of WIP. Average stock of WIP. Now, first of all, tell me, what do you understand by the term WIP? Work in progress. Can I say WIP is actually nothing but incomplete finished goods? WIP is actually nothing but incomplete finished goods. It is something which is more than raw material but less than finished goods. So you guys tell me, should I write raw material consume in the denominator? Will stock of WIP based on raw material consume? No. If you write raw material consume, then again you are concluding that there is no difference between raw material and WIP. So should I write COGS? No. If you write COGS, then you're concluding that there's no difference between COGS, that is, there is no difference between finished goods and WIP, but there is a difference as WIP is incomplete finished goods. So the way stock of raw material is based on raw material consumed, stock of FG is based on cost of the goods sold, stock of WIP is based on cost of production. Now, though it is wrong, actually it is not cost of production, then what it is, that I'll explain you at later stage. But when you have to write the formula, you'll be writing the formula as average stock of WIP by cost of production into 365, 52 और 12, यानी इससे क्या आंसर मिलेगा, वो 30 days, इससे क्या मिलेगा 10 days, इससे 45 days. So if these values are not given, then we can use these formulas and we can get these values. There is one more thing here. We have average collection period. So average collection period, tell me what will be the formula. It's nothing but average of debtors by credit sales into 365, 52 or 12 as the case may be. This will give me the answer of that 60 days. That this will tell you the time that you take to get back your money from the customers. And then what will be the formula? Chalo, average payment period का formula बोलो. Average payment period का formula बोलो ना यार. It is average creditors by, now creditors are based on credit purchases. Creditors are based on credit purchases into 365, 52 or 12 as the case may be. So if these values are given directly, then to great. We can simply write those values, get the duration. What if these values are not given? Then they will give you all these information in the question. Using this information, you calculate the duration. I hope and I believe you people have followed what did I just discuss with you guys. So we'll be making use of these formulas and we'll be computing the duration of operating cycle. So this was the basic. I have not yet started with estimation. I'm just doing one independent topic about the calculation of duration of operating cycle and what is the meaning of that. That's what I have done till now. Now we have one sum that is based on this duration of operating cycle concept. We'll take up that sum. If I'm not mistaken, that is also an examination sum, past examination sum. So we can take up that. It is covering almost all the concepts that are required for this part of the topic. And then I'll make you guys understand how estimation is to be done. Meanwhile, I would say you can take a screenshot of this entire thing that I've presented on the board. It will help you to do your revision fast. Okay, so now let's take up the next one. We'll take up question number 4, friends. So if you have downloaded the questionnaire booklet which is there on the site, then great. Those who haven't, they can please download it. It's available at the website of JK Shah Classes. So let's take up question number 4, friends. Now let's read it, what it says. The following in So let's take up. The following information is provided by DPS Limited for the year end 31st March 2013. They have given us the raw material storage period, work in progress conversion period, finished goods storage period, debt collection period, creditors payment period, annual operating cost including depreciation of rupees 2,10,000. We are to assume 1 year equals to 360 days. You are required to calculate operating cycle period, number of operating cycles in a year, amount of working capital required for the company on cash cost basis. Now what is this cash cost basis? That I'll tell you at a later stage. The company is a market leader in its product. There is virtually no competitor in the market. Based on a market research, it is planning to discontinue sales on credit and deliver the products on prepayment basis. Thereby, it can reduce its working capital requirements substantially. What would be the reduction in the working capital requirement due to such decision? So we have been asked multiple things here, but let's concentrate on one point at a time. The first one says calculate the operating cycle period. Now if they're telling you to get operating cycle period, can I say what they're asking us to get is this duration of operating cycle? Yes. So we have to determine this duration itself. So let's determine the duration. And is the individual duration already given? You would realize that yes, all the individual durations are given to you. So we don't have to apply the formulas as those durations have already been provided to us. So let's dump the values as it is. So this becomes the answer to the first point for me. And all the duration given are in days. And you know friends, first part is the easiest of all, I would say. So we have holding period of raw material as 55 days. The processing time is 18 days. The time for which we keep the finished goods in our godown is 22 days. And we take 45 days time to collect money from our debtors. So this is 40. 45, 100, 100 and 1. This is gross duration becomes 140. And we are being given 60 days time to make the payment. So my net duration is coming to 80 days. So what does it mean, friends? How would you interpret this 80 days for me? It takes 80 days time for our cash to turn into cash, which also signifies I have to arrange money in such a way and in such a manner that I survive for at least 80 days. Why, sir, only 80 days? We want to survive day on day basis, year on year, and so many times. For infinity, we want to survive as an organization. So why only 60 days? Because after 60 days, rolling will start. We'll get back money and that can be reused into the business. So we have to arrange money so that we can survive for at least 80 days. Okay? Okay. Now that was the answer to the first point. Now, the second point, number of operating cycles in a year. Acha, one cycle is of how many days? 80 days. How many such cycles do you think will occur in a year? That how many such cycles that will occur in a year becomes number of cycles in a year. So that is what they have asked, number of operating cycles in a year. So I'm writing it here, friends. So the second point is number of operating cycles in a year. So if I use common sense, then I would say this way, one cycle. So if I say there is one cycle, then one cycle is of how many days? 80 days. In a year, that is in 360 days, how many such cycles would occur? So when you cross multiply, you will be able to get the value. I think that's going to be 4.5 years, something, 4.5 times. Yes, 4.5 times. So we have 4.5 times. So such cycles will occur 4.5 times in a year. This is common sense approach. If I tell you develop it by way of a formula, so what will be the formula? Alternate way, or I would say by using the formula number of days in a year by net duration of operating cycle. Net duration of operating cycle. So what are the number of days in a year? 360, and duration is 80 days. So again it is giving me 4.5 times. But when you apply common sense, you get the answer, and that is indicating that such cycles will occur 4.5 times in a year. That becomes the answer to the second point. The third one says what? Amount of working capital required for the company on cash cost basis. Now understand the third point. Working capital required, that is what they have asked. Working capital required. First of all, tell me, पूरे साल का operating खर्चा कितना लग रहा है? What we think is, we expect that we'll incur 21 lakh rupees of annual operating cost. That is what they have said. So annual operating cost, annual cost related to business is rupees 21 lakh. पूरे साल का business cost इतना लग रहा है अपने को. This is a business related cost, or we can say operating cost. अब इतना पैसे का जुगाड़ करना पड़ेगा क्या? नहीं. This 21 lakh rupees includes one non-cash expenditure called depreciation, जिसके लिए मुझे पैसों की जरूरत नहीं है. तो I'll eliminate that and I would say less depreciation, and the amount of depreciation is rupees 2,10,000. मतलब can I say annual cash operating cost? अगर मैं ये word use करूं, annual cash operating cost, because total minus non cash will give you cash only, no? तो annual खर्चा जो मुझे लगेगा cash में for the year 21 lakh minus 2,10,000, that's 18,90,000. 18,90,000 rupees का मुझे खर्चा लगेगा पूरे साल का. This is what I will require. This is what is the cost that I require for the entire for the entire year, which is going to be 18,90,000. So what is your opinion? In your view, what should I do? According to you, what should we do? Should we raise straight away 18,90,000 only? Should we arrange 18,90,000 only? No, you arrange only so that you can survive for 80 days. Post that, what you can do, that money will start coming back into the business as collection from debtors that can be reused to meet your operating costs. अगर आप सोचो आपको साल का 18,90,000 लगेगा, अगर आप इतना फंड्स अरेंज करोगे से बाय वे ऑफ बोरोइंग्स, कैसे से ह्यूज इंटरेस्ट चुकाना पड़ेगा. उससे बेटर है 60-80 डेज के लिए अरेंज करो ना, क्योंकि आपको पता है कि आफ्टर 80 डेज कलेक्शंस विल स्टार्ट फ्लोइंग बैक इनटू द बिजनेस. सो आई वुड से दिस वे, कॉमन सेंस अगर हम लोग अप्लाई करें तो वी कैन से फॉर 360 days how much we are going to require. For 360 days our requirement is rupees 18,90,000. So for 80 days what amount I will require? So I'd say into 80 divided by 360, that's giving me 4,20,000 rupees. मतलब क्या करो friends, आप 4,20,000 rupees arrange करो. It will help you to survive for 80 days. After that, collections will come back into the business that can be reused to meet your operating costs. Is it okay? Now this is common sense approach. If I tell you develop it by way of a formula क्या बनेगा? Or I would say alternate way formula. What am I doing? 18,90,000. This is annual cash cost, operating cost, into 80, that is nothing but the duration, divided by 360, that is number of days in a year. So I can say this way, annual operating cost into net duration by 360. So that's going to give you the same answer, 18,90,000 into I would say 80 by 360. That's giving me 4,20,000 rupees. Did everyone follow? So this can also be termed as working capital requirement on or using operating cycle method. This method of calculating working capital requirement is by using which method? By using operating cycle method. Why am I using the word operating cycle? Because what we are doing is we are using the operating cycle duration and then we are finding out the working capital. So that's going to be one way to calculate your working capital requirement. Is it okay? Now there is one more point that we need to answer, and that's the fourth one. What it says: this company is a market leader in its product. The company is a market leader in its product. There is virtually no competitor in the market. Based on this research, they are planning to discontinue their sales on credit and deliver the product based on prepayment. Thereby, it can reduce its working capital requirements substantially. What would be the reduction in the working capital? Now, they're telling us to find out the reduction in working capital. In the fourth point, I'm writing the fourth point here. Reduction in working capital. Now, how will you calculate the reduction in working capital? Can I say first take the existing working capital minus the revised working capital? Now, do we know the existing working capital? Yes, we have just calculated it is 4,20,000. If I can calculate my revised working capital, then the difference between the two is the reduction in working capital. अब व्यू पॉइंट क्या है कंपनी का, आप मुझे बताइए. कंपनी सेज दैट वी आर ऑलरेडी अ मार्केट लीडर इन द प्रोडक्ट and there is no competition available. So if there is no competition, why should we offer credit period? We will not offer credit period. The moment they discontinue the credit period, can I say ये 140 से अब 95 हो जाएगा? जैसे ये 145 से 95 हो गया, can I say your net duration now will become 35 days. So because of this change, your net duration now will become 35 days. So you have to survive, you have to have funds, you have to have liquidity such that you survive for 35 days. After that, rolling will start. So in that case, when you have to survive for less number of days, less money will be required. And now, if I tell you, let's calculate the revised working capital. Can I say revised working capital? खर्चा तो पूरे साल का उतना ही लगेगा. बट पैसा जो लॉक्ड अप होगा वो लेस नंबर ऑफ डेज के लिए होगा. इट्स गोइंग टू बी फॉर 35 days ओनली. सो यू नीड टू सर्वाइव ओनली फॉर 35 days एंड द रोलिंग विल स्टार्ट. सो आई वुड से रिवाइज्ड वर्किंग कैपिटल विल बी 18,90,000 into 35 by 360. So how much is this coming to, friends? Check please. 18,90,000 into 35 divided by 360. That's giving me 183,750. So now to survive for 35 days, you will require only this much. So what is the reduction in the working capital? So my reduction in the working capital here will be 236,250. I hope everyone followed this, friends. What I'm telling you is, if your working capital requirement, if you are going to discontinue the sales on credit, your duration will come down and your revised duration in that case will become 35 days. So 18,90,000 35 by 360. This is what you now have to require to meet your 35 days survival plan. Post that, rolling will start, and we would say then the working capital requirement will be 236,250. Sorry, 183,750. Reduction is going to be 236,250. Did you understand? If I'm not mistaken, this sum was there in the exam and it was carrying around 8 marks. It was quite a manageable sum. Believe me, this chapter of estimation of working capital is more sort of a common sense approach. एक businessman की तरह सोचो जिसको पैसों की जरूरत है for meeting its regular working capital requirements. Believe me, you will be able to crack this part of the sum if you apply common sense. So this was solution to question number 4. That was one thing about estimating the duration of operating cycle, and also we learned one way to find out the working capital requirement. This method that we have used can be termed as operating cycle method. Is it okay? So this was solution to question number 4. Fine. Now, after discussing the sum question number 4, let us progress now, and we'll now discuss how that estimation of working capital is to be done. So to make you guys understand that, I have already have the formulas with me. Now, let's progress with the discussion. First of all, if you understand, the name of the chapter itself is estimation of working capital. Tell me, estimation, is it done for past period or for future? You would say, definitely sir, it is done for future. Do you agree future is uncertain? Yes sir. Now if future is uncertain, we are bound to do all our calculations by taking some assumptions. Without assumptions, you will not be able to crack any of the sums because estimation is done for a future period. So the first and the most important assumption of this chapter, friends, is all of the business activities are assumed to be spread evenly throughout the year. All business activities of the organization are assumed to be spread out evenly throughout the year. So what does it mean? It means that if you make sales of 1000 rupees in April, then in the month of May also you will make 1000, in the month of June 1000, July 1000, August. Is it practically possible? No. But because of this assumption, it is possible. All business activities evenly spread. If you maintain stock of 500 rupees in your godown, then at any point of time in your godown, there will be stock of rupees 500. Now, if the stock at any point of time in my godown is rupees 500, can I say opening stock will be 500? What about closing? That will also be 500. Then what about average? It will also be 500. So opening balances, closing balances, average balances, every time it's going to be the same. Now, because of this assumption, I can now conclude that since all activities are going to be evenly spread, now friends, do you agree whether I make use of these words average or I ignore it? Will it make any difference? No, because all activities are evenly spread. So I'm just eliminating these words averages here. As I don't need these values. Okay. Now, so now my next question to you guys is, if I transposition these formulas, ये दोनों formulas रखना है हमको यहाँ पे देखने के लिए, तो if I transposition these formulas and if I tell you develop the formula for stock of raw material, what do you think? What will be the formula? I want you guys to develop the formula on your own for this stock of raw material. Friends, can I say the formula for stock of raw material will be raw material consumed into the holding period of raw material by 365, 52 or 12 as the case may be. I'm just transpositioning that formula, doing ulta pulta that formula, and I'm getting a new formula for stock of raw material. Achha. If I now tell you develop a formula for stock of WIP, so friends, what will be the formula? COP into the average conversion period of WIP. Average, whether you write it or you ignore it, doesn't matter. So we have conversion period of WIP by 365, 52 or 12 as the case may be. If I tell you develop a formula for stock of finished goods, so what do you think will be the formula? COGS into the holding period of FG by 365, 52 or 12 as the case may be. If I now tell you, do ulta pulta onto this formula and develop a formula for me to get the value of debtors. So then can I say the formula for debtors will be, debtors are based on credit sales into the collection period by 365, 52 or 12 as the case may be. And then if I tell you develop a formula to get the creditors, that's going to be credit purchases into the payment period by 365, 52 or 12 as the case may be. Sir, why are you explaining all these things? Just come back to that screenshot which I told you at the start of the explanation of this chapter. I told you our objective is to estimate the working capital requirement. Working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. Now, the level of current asset is dependent on level of stock, debtors and cash bank. The level of stock in turn is dependent on stock of raw material, stock of WIP, finished goods, and the level of debtors and the cash bank. The level of current liability is dependent on creditors and other current liability. So if I somehow manage to get stock of raw material, stock of WIP, stock of finished goods, debtors, cash, creditors, other current liabilities, I can very well get the value of working capital requirement. So if you notice this, friends, stock of raw material, how will I get it? By using this formula. Stock of WIP using this formula. FG this formula. Debtors, credit, that's it, done. So can I say stock of raw material? Why do we keep material? So that we can use it. So stock of raw material is based on raw material consumed and the holding period. Stock of WIP is based on cost of production and the conversion period. Stock of FG, why do we keep finished goods? So that we can sell it. So it is based on cost of the goods sold into the holding period. Debtors are based on credit sales and the collection period. Creditors, credit purchase and collection and the payment period. Now, to calculate all these values, see friends, cash bank information question will give you, so that's never going to be a problem. Information about other current liabilities also to an extent will be available. What needs to be done, that is a part of discussion in solving of the sums. But what I'm telling you is, to calculate each and every component of current asset and current liability, we need these values and the credit periods. Believe me, credit periods will be given by the question. So these credit periods will not and never create a problem. The only thing which will not be given in the question directly will be these material consumed, COP, COGS, credit sales, purchases and so on. So these values will not be given, but information will be provided by the question, and through that information it is we who will have to find out these values, and then estimation is damn easy, friend. Estimation is the easiest, estimation is the easiest task. The only thing is these values will not be given by the question. So if I now ask you a question here, carefully analyze these values: material consumed, COP, COGS, sales, purchase. From where do you get all these figures, friends? From which document, which statement you will get all these values? Can I say from income statement? Definitely you will get all these values: material consumed, COP, COGS. We will be getting all these values from our income statement. So our job is what, you know friends, in this chapter भेजा सिर्फ एक ही जगह पे लगाना है, भेजा सिर्फ एक ही जगह पे लगाना है, and the brains where we have to apply is in preparing our income statement. So if you get to know the income statement correct, then believe me, the sum and the chapter is all yours. So we have to just apply brains, if we have any, in case of preparing the income statement. That's it. So let's learn the next segment of preparing the income statement. Now again the next question, ये जो income statement मैं अब prepare करने वाला हूँ, is it going to be an actual income statement or an estimated one? Definitely an estimated one. So we will prepare an estimated income statement which will, believe me, help me to estimate the working capital requirement. So let us understand the pro forma, the format of estimating the working capital requirement. Okay. So now I'm preparing the income statement here. So just recollect, what is the first assumption that we have taken? So we have estimated income statement. The first assumption taken is all of the business activities are assumed to be spread evenly throughout the year. All business activities are assumed to be spread out evenly throughout the year. Then now the second assumption, unless specified, all companies in this chapter are going to be manufacturing companies. So this chapter is dedicated to manufacturing companies. So no information given, every company in this question is going to be manufacturing, क्योंकि raw material WIP तो manufacturing company के cases में ही होगा ना. So unless specified, all companies are manufacturing company. So now let's prepare this income statement. Basic visualization process is needed, friends. If you can visualize your income statement, trust me, the job is done. My income statement here will start with raw materials consumed, that is raw materials used. Raw materials consumed, raw materials used. Now you tell me, and one more thing, the income statement, nothing specified, is always on annual basis. So we always prepare income statement on annual basis. So you tell me, first we start with raw material consumed. Can the raw material on its own become finished goods? Just you keep the raw material in go down, it will turn into finished goods? No. To convert this raw form into finished goods, we will require conversion cost. It can't be ready on its own. So if you require conversion cost, what expenses do we need to convert that raw form into finished goods? We will have to take help of labor. And can I say, those labor will definitely charge wages to the organization. So then we will have the next thing, that's going to be direct wages. Acha, tell me chartered, this material which we are going to consume, this material, this is a cost to the organization. Is it a cost related to producing the product, or is it related to sales? This cost, agreed, it is a cost to the organization, but is it the cost incurred at the time of production or at the time of sale? Production. Similarly, laborers will charge us to produce the product, or will they charge us to make the sales? No, they will simply tell us, हमने आपका काम करके दिया, हमने आपको goods produce करके दिया, we want our wages. So wages is also an expense related to production. Then next, we will require manufacturing expenses. We will require manufacturing expenses to convert this raw material into finished goods. So are these expenses related to production, or are they related to sales? Production. Produce करोगे तो खर्चा होगा. Now there is one more assumption in this chapter. First of all, the fixed asset. If you remember that balance sheet small I had prepared, fixed asset will be used in the business. And they'll be used in the business, we'll have to charge depreciation. What is the speciality of all these expenses? These are those expenses that appear in your trading account. Any expense that appears in the trading account becomes an expenditure that is incurred to produce the product. The assumption here is, we will assume that the fixed assets that are going to be used in the business here would be the one that are exclusively required for producing the product, which means depreciation here will also be assumed to be a part of cost of production. That is, we will consider कि वो भी एक खर्चा है organization के लिए, but that is an expenditure that is required to produce the product. So what will happen? We are assuming this was the third assumption. So we'll consider depreciation also to be a part of cost of production. अब ये सब खर्चा जब आप करोगे, तो can I say finished goods ready हो जाएंगे? We'll be able to, we say this is what is the cost we have incurred to produce the finished goods. So I will give the heading, this is actually cost of production, which you can term it as COP. Okay, next question. What is the formula for COGS? And I'm discussing for manufacturing companies. So what is the formula for COGS? How is COGS calculated, friends? Opening cost of goods sold. Which goods do we sell? Finished goods. Huh? So everything here is going to be related to finished goods. So COGS कैसे मिलेगा? Opening stock of finished goods. Already मेरे पास इतने finished goods हैं. We being manufacturing company, we will produce finished goods. So already इतने finished goods थे, fresh produce किए, उसमें से अभी भी इतने go down में बाकी हैं, पड़े हैं, तो बाकी का इधर क्या बेच दिया. So the formula for COGS will be what? Opening stock of finished goods plus cost of producing the new finished goods minus the closing stock of finished goods will be COGS. But if you remember, friends, the first and the basic assumption with which I have started the discussion here is all business activities are evenly spread. The moment I say all business activities are evenly spread, can I say opening stock of finished goods and closing stock of finished goods will be same? And the moment opening stock of finished goods and closing stock of finished goods will be the same, COP will be just equal to COGS. तो यानी कि मैं यहाँ पर बोल सकता हूँ COP will be equal to COGS. आपको समझा ये पक्का? Why COP and COGS is the same? Because we are concluding that there will be opening stock and closing stock, but that is going to be the same. So if it is going to be same, we conclude that there is going to be no difference between the two, and hence COP will become equal to COGS. Next question. बस इतना खर्चा करोगे तो क्या goods बिक जाएगा? नहीं. We also have to incur other expenses, and these other expenses would include admin expense. We will have selling expenses. We will consider these selling expenses here, and then when I add it up, this can be termed as my total cost. You can even call this word as operating cost. Total operating cost अगर आपको बोलना है तो ये भी आप बोल सकते हो, total operating cost. Friends, मेरा next question, क्या ये जो total operating cost आपको मिला है, this is the cost. Are you going to sell the goods with an objective to do charity? No, you're going to sell it with an objective to earn profits. So to this operating cost, what will I do? I'll add the profits, and then I'll be getting the sales. So now why are we doing this discussion? You would realize that to get all these values, I need specific values. See, stock of raw material is based on raw material consumed, holding period. Holding period will be given by the question. Raw material consumed, I'll get it from this income statement. See here, stock of raw material is based on material consumed, and the holding period will be given by the question. Material consumed मुझे यहाँ से मिल जाएगा. Stock of WIP is based on COP, conversion period question देगा. COP मुझे यहाँ से मिल जाएगा. Stock of FG is based on COGS, and the holding period of FG, COGS यहाँ से मिल जाएगा. Holding period question देगा. Debtors are based on credit sales. No information given, friends. We are to assume all sales to be on credit. So we'll say debtors are based on credit sales into the collection period. Collection period question will give you, and credit sales we'll get it from here. Creditors are based on credit purchases and the payment period. Payment period question will give me credit purchases. कहाँ से मिलेगा? सर इनकम स्टेटमेंट में तो कहीं पर भी क्रेडिट परचेसेस नहीं दिख रहा है. What is the formula for raw material consumed? Tell me, charters, what is the formula for raw material consumed? Opening stock of raw material plus purchases of raw material minus closing stock of raw material will give me raw material consumed. So can I say all activities evenly spread? So opening stock of raw material, closing stock of raw material stays the same in my go down, and if it remains the same, purchases automatically equals raw material consumed. So यहाँ पे creditors will be directly considered on raw material consumed. Did you get this, friends? Pakka? So this is what we need to do. दिमाग income statement में ही लगाना है, believe me, और किसी चीज में नहीं. When you people would have done the revision on working capital estimation, you would have realized that there are two approaches to estimate the working capital requirement. One is on total basis, the other is on cash cost basis. So what income statement we have prepared here, friends, is to estimate the working capital requirement on total basis. What we have done here is on total basis, but there is one more way to estimate the working capital requirement. That's on cash cost basis, where I'm only bothered with my money, my cash. So आप मुझे बताइए, you people would be aware, what are we supposed to do? What will be the changes in the income statement and where the changes will occur? If I have to estimate the working capital on cash cost basis, then क्या कैश खर्चा लगेगा ना, मुझे सिर्फ वही देखना है, कैश खर्चा बस, दैट्स इट. So I will require material consume, yes वो भी कैश खर्चा है. I'll have to pay for the wages, yes it is cash खर्चा. Manufacturing expenses, cash खर्चा. Depreciation, can I say, is non-cash, so this is going to be ignored in cash cost basis. Now that means your total will change. हाँ, क्या admin expense के लिए खर्चा लगेगा? Yes. Cash selling expense के लिए? Yes. This is also yes. But now since we are only bothered with cash cost, cash kharcha, we don't need profit, so we'll ignore this and we will ignore this. It means if you are following estimating the working capital requirement, your income statement will not have depreciation element, profit and sales element. Rest everything will be will remain same. The only change that will now occur is debtors. Now you will not consider it on sales because sales had element of profit. तो अब debtors हम किस पे value करेंगे? Debtors we will value it on total cost. मतलब cash cost basis क्या है friends? कि जो debtors हैं, जो finished goods हैं, जो WIP है, उसमें मेरा actual रोकड़ा कितना block है? In total basis, we valued the debtors on sales, which had element of profit. But profit is never your money locked up. Profit is never your money locked up. So you eliminate the profit from the sales. The moment you eliminate the profit from sales, what you will be doing is you will value the debtors on total cost. Just make it like a thumb rule that when you have to do the estimation of working capital on cash cost basis, you will ignore depreciation, element of profit and sales. Debtors will be valued on the cash cost or rather the total cost. Stock of FG on this amount. मतलब सिर्फ amounts थोड़ा change हो जाएंगे. The rest everything will remain the same. Is it okay? I'm again telling you the brains where we have to apply in this chapter is in preparing the income statement. If your income statement goes correct, believe me, your estimations will go right. Because then it is just application of formula, friends. Just application of formulas. I hope everyone has followed this part of the discussion. Okay, fine. So now, sir, which approach do we need to follow for estimating? Should we follow total basis? Should we follow cash cost basis? That question will inform us. If the question says estimate the working capital on total basis, then follow total basis. If the question says estimate the working capital on cash cost, then go for cash cost. If no information given, choice is yours. You have a choice. If you want, you can either go for total basis or you can follow cash cost. Whatever you want, you are free to do that. But my opinion would be write a note on this. At times there might be some leading indicators, small indicators will be available, which will tell us that we have to estimate the working capital not on total basis but on cash cost basis. Now what are going to be that indicators? The indicators would be like this. They will say company is approaching a bank. Company is approaching a bank to meet its working capital requirement. अच्छा, अगर बैंक के पास अगर आप जाओगे तो क्या बैंक आपको डेप्रिसिएशन फाइनेंस करके देगा? वो तो नॉन कैश आइटम है. क्या बैंक आपका प्रॉफिट एलिमेंट फाइनेंस करेगा? नहीं. So when the question says company is approaching a bank to meet its financial requirement and all that stuff, it is implied that bank is not going to finance depreciation nor the profit element. In that case, we will be solving the working capital estimation on which basis? cash cost basis. But that's not a rule I'm telling you, but you are free to take another assumption as well. I would prefer to go for total basis or cash cost, whatever is right. But if the company is approaching a commercial bank to meet its working capital requirement and all that stuff, blah blah blah, so it means that's an indicator that we have to estimate the working capital on which basis? Cash cost basis. Else the choice is yours. Is it okay? Fine. So this was all the discussion that was needed to estimate the working capital requirement. Once this is done, then we have few sums that can be tackled up, and those are select sums which are important from exams point of view. That's the reason why I have selected it. And that would be the end of the chapter, post solving of the sums plus concepts here and there that I'll be discussing. Fine. So friends, now let us take up sums that are related to these estimation of working capitals. So take up question number 1 now, and I would suggest that please do refer this sum during your exam time. The following annual figures relate to XYZ company. We have sales, which is at 2 months credit, materials consumed, suppliers extend 2 months credit, wages paid monthly in arrears, manufacturing expenses outstanding at the end of the year, cash expenses are paid 1 month in arrears, total administrative expenses paid as above, total sales promotion expenses paid quarterly in advance. The company sells its products on a gross profit of 25%, counting depreciation as a part of cost of production. It keeps 1 month's stock each of raw material and finished goods and a cash balance of rupees 1 lakh. Assuming a 20% safety margin, work out the working capital requirements of the company on cash cost basis. Ignore work in progress. Now, this is an examination sum. They are asking us to estimate the working capital on cash cost basis. I would go one step further. I would not just estimate it on cash cost basis, I would even estimate it on total basis, so that in case the same sum comes in the exam on total basis, you should be able to crack that as well. So once we are done reading the question, what would be my suggestion to you guys is that after reading the question, the moment you realize it is a sum on working capital, immediately prepare a format which will show a working capital requirement statement. So I'll be preparing first the format of working capital requirement. Let's understand that format, and it's going to be a standard format that is going to be used every time in every sum. So let's understand the format of working capital requirement. So now pay attention to this working capital requirement. So the heading to the statement will be statement showing working capital requirement. So we have statement showing working capital requirement. Now, if I would have just prepared the working capital requirement on cash cost basis, then there would be only one column, particulars cash cost. But since I am solving this sum using both the methods, I would have two columns here. One is for cash cost basis and the other is for total basis. So this is particulars, this is total basis first, and this is cash cost. There is a standardized format which is to be prepared, friends, for estimating the working capital. So understand this format here, please. The first heading here is going to be current assets. And in these current assets, now we will be taking up the first, which is the most important current asset which every company will have. Obviously it will have stock, so I'll first begin with stock. And can I say the stock figure here would include stock of raw material. Now ensure that after every head you leave one line. So raw material, then we have WIP, then we will have finished goods. Then the next one would be the debtors. So here I would now start with debtors. Then the third would be cash bank. And the fourth heading that you will give would be other current assets. Standardized format we are going to stick to, friends. Now once you are done with this other current assets, for these other current assets you can usually leave 3-4 lines, because you know there would be some current assets such as prepaid expenses, prepaid sales promotion and all that stuff. So you can leave 3-4 lines here, and then you can give the heading here as total of A. Then B point will be the current liabilities. Now in current liabilities, tell me chartered, which is the most important current liability every organization will have. Can I say every organization will be having creditors? So here I would begin first with creditors. The second, I can give a general head for other current liabilities. Now, so we have other current liabilities, and for other current liabilities you can usually leave 3-4 lines, and then you can take the total here, which is going to be total of B, total of current liability. Then working capital will be just equal to A minus B. Okay, so we now have the format. This is the structured format that is to be followed whenever we have to estimate the working capital requirement. So you can have a look at the format, friends. So first we'll give the heading statement showing working capital requirement, and then the heading will be current assets and the current liabilities. Is it okay? Now what strategy should you adopt, friends? The strategy that should be adopted is, once this format is ready, then we will give the heading working note 1 income statement. See, this is mandatory. Any sum that you will be checking, you will realize that you have to have the income statement. So your working note 1 has to be income statement. Don't prepare the format. Don't prepare the format. You just keep the heading as it is and just leave half the page. You just are supposed to leave half the page, and then working note 2 heading you should give, that's going to be for credit periods. So working note 1 heading will be, just give the headings, friends. Don't write anything, just heading working note 1 income statement. Then I'll give the heading working note 2, that's going to be for the credit periods. Why am I writing all these things here is because I'll summarize the entire data, capture the information of the question, which will help me to estimate the working capital way too easily. Okay, so now since we have made extra discussion, we will be estimating it on both total and cash cost basis. I will first focus on total basis. So I have already fortunately have the income statement which was prepared earlier for explanation purpose. Now first I'll focus, friends, on total basis. And what I need to do is, when I'm estimating the working capital on total basis, whatever values are given, I'll first dump them and then I'll think about the other stuff. तो पहले income statement पे focus कर रहा हूँ मैं. I'm not focusing on the credit periods. Let's first focus on income statement because they have given me information directly about sales. So now in this case, since we are following total basis, we need information about sales, which is given to be rupees 36 lakh. So I already have 36 lakh rupees of sales. Material consumed is rupees 9 lakh. So I'll write material consumed as rupees 9 lakh. Wages paid are 7,20,000. So this is 7,20,000. Now, maximum students, when they solve the sum in the classroom, they do this mistake. In a hurry to solve the sum, what they'll do is, no, they'll not read further and they'll simply say, manufacturing expenses outstanding at the end of the year, cash expenses are 1 month. They'll simply write 80,000 rupees here. That straight away will be wrong, because if you read it carefully, you realize that these are not manufacturing expenses for the year. These are not manufacturing expenses for the year. These are the expenses outstanding at the end of the year. And we delay expenses payment by 1 month. मतलब can I say ये 80,000 rupees जो है is a delay for 1 month. As I told you, I want income statement on annual basis, और पहला ही word उधर बोला है कि these are annual figures. So 80,000 is for 1 month. So I want for 12 months what's going to be my expense. That's going to give me 9,60,000. So be careful, friends. Maximum people would do this mistake. They simply copy 80,000 as it is given in the question. So that will be wrong. So the value becomes 9,60,000. How did we get that? That's going to be 80,000 into 12, because that is the amount outstanding at the end of the year. Is it okay? Fine. Then they say total administrative expenses. Now they have used the word administrative expense. These are total. So total admin expenses कितना है? 2,40,000, यानी पूरे साल का ही है. Sales promotion expense 1,20,000. तो ये भी साल का ही है. Now, if you notice, at present मोटा मोटी इनकम स्टेटमेंट रेडी हो गया एक्सेप्ट फॉर डेप्रिसिएशन, ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट एंड प्रॉफिट. लेट्स सी, वी माइट गेट इट. कंपनी सेल्स इट्स प्रोडक्ट्स ऑन अ ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट ऑफ 25% counting depreciation as a part of cost of production. The question says the company is counting depreciation as a part of cost of production. अरे तो वो नहीं बोलता तो भी हम लोग वही अज्यूम करते हैं कि इट इज अ पार्ट ऑफ कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन ओनली. सो वी वुड हैव एनी व्हिच वेज अज्यूम दैट स्टफ, सो वी डोंट हैव टू वरी अबाउट दैट. बट नाउ दैट कैन हेल्प मी टू गेट द अमाउंट ऑफ व्हाट? डेप्रिसिएशन. फ्रेंड्स, टेल मी, हाउ डू यू थिंक वी विल कैलकुलेट द डेप्रिसिएशन? हाउ डू यू थिंक वी विल कैलकुलेट द amount of depreciation? It's very simple. The question has specified that the company sells its products on a gross profit of 25%. So I can give the heading working note 3 here, and the heading will be calculation of COGS. See how we'll calculate this. Friends, do you agree sales is actually a sum of two things? Sales is actually nothing but COGS plus the gross profit. Now if I assume sales figure of rupees 100, GP is 25% of sales, it means, can I say COGS is 75. इन तीनों में से एक भी फिगर अवेलेबल होगा ना तो बाकी दोनों मिल सकते हैं. क्या अवेलेबल है फ्रेंड्स? द फिगर ऑफ सेल्स इज अवेलेबल, दैट इज 36 lakh. नाउ व्हेन यू क्रॉस मल्टीप्लाई, can I say 36 lakh ka 75% is going to be my COGS, and that's coming to 27 lakh. Now what is going to be the use of this 27 lakh, friends? This 27 lakh is going to be written here 27, because this is cost of goods sold. COP and COGS here are same, so that's going to be 27 lakh. And how did we get this 27 lakh? For that, this is my working note number 3. अब जैसे ये 27 लाख मिल गया, मैं सीधा यहाँ पे नीचे मूव कर सकता हूँ. 27 लाख प्लस 2,40,000 प्लस 1,20,000, that's going to give me 30,60,000 as the total operating cost, minus 36 lakh, that's going to give me 5,40,000 ka profit, and this becomes my balancing figure of depreciation. So 27 lakh minus 9 lakh minus 7,20,000 minus 9,60,000, that's coming to 1,20,000, the value of depreciation. And if you notice, बक करते करते friends, you would have realized that मैंने income statement total basis का prepare भी कर लिया. और अगर मैं आपको पूछूं, let us do the estimation of working capital on cash cost basis, and I prepare the income statement. Tell me, chartered, क्या डिफरेंस होगा कैश कॉस्ट बेसिस एंड टोटल बेसिस में? क्या ये छोड़ दूं, इग्नोर करूं? नो, दिस विल कंटिन्यू एज इट इज. This will continue because I'm only interested in my cash expenses, cash costs. So this is going to be 9 lakh 60. Ignore this now. So this value will change. This becomes 25 lakh 80,000. The cash cost of goods sold. Administrative expenses are obviously cash expenses. 2 lakh 40. ये हो गया 1 lakh 20. And that's going to give me 26, 27, 20, 29 lakh 40,000 if I'm not wrong. And we are not supposed to consider these two values. So this is basic difference between total basis and cash cost basis. Though the question was only on cash cost basis, I have gone one step further and I've decided that let's finish it off on total basis also. Let's read further what they say. It keeps 1 month stock each of raw material and finished goods and a cash balance of 1 lakh. So can I say that information I can write it here? Now my income statement is ready, so now I'll write all the values that are related to the credit periods. Holding period of raw material is given. Raw material holding period given is 1 month. Finished goods is also 1 month. Cash bank balance is rupees 1 lakh. Now there is a safety margin. Now what is the safety margin? I'll explain you. Safety margin I'll explain you at the end of the sum. That's going to be 20%. इग्नोर WIP, ठीक है. अब कहने से वो टेबल के जो ब्रैकेट्स में लिखे हैं वो वैल्यूज लिख देते हैं हम लोग. सेल्स एट 2 months credit. टेल मी फ्रेंड्स, व्हाट डज द वर्ड 2 months credit here stands for? We are offering our debtors a credit of 2 months. Suppliers give us a credit of 2 months. So we are getting a credit of 2 months. Wages paid monthly in arrears. That means there is going to be a delay in making the payment, and if you delay the payment there will be an existence of something called as outstanding wages, and that's going to be 1 month. Cash expenses are paid 1 month in arrears for manufacturing. यानी हम लोग manufacturing expenses भी delay करने वाले हैं, तो we say outstanding manufacturing expenses कितना, वो भी आ जाएगा 1 month. Total admin expenses paid as above. Paid as above means even we will delay paying the expenses of admin. So this is outstanding admin expenses, and that's going to be 1 month. Sales promotion expenses we will delay, or rather we will prepay it in advance, quarterly in advance. So in a year there are going to be 4 quarters, and 1 quarter will be of 3 months. So prepaid sales promotion, and that's going to be 3 months. Okay, so do you agree friends? Entire data given by the question, I have captured it. Yes. Now our objective was not never to capture the data. Our objective was to estimate the working capital requirement. What I now have done is I have just captured the data and have summarized it according to my needs. Now friends, believe me, estimation एकदम लल्लू हो गया, एकदम लल्लू. अभी क्या करना है अपने को? We just have to use the formulas that I've taught you and we can finish it off. So now come on here, let's take it this way. Stock of raw material. First I would finish off total basis, then I will finish it off on cash cost basis. Stock of raw material, it is based on what formula? याद करो. We require material so that we can use it. So stock of raw material is based on raw material consumed and the holding period of raw material. If you notice, holding period of raw material भी है, that is going to be 9 lakh into 1 by 12. So what is the amount of stock of raw material that we need to keep in a godown? और I can ask you this way, अपना पैसा गोडाउन में रॉ मटेरियल के फॉर्म में कितना ब्लॉक रहता है? So I would say 75,000. If I'm not mistaken, question clearly has indicated ignore WIP. So we will ignore it. Stock of finished goods, formula याद करो. I have erased the formula because I'm running short of space here, but you people already have the formula. Stock of finished goods is based on cost of the goods sold into the holding period. Do I have the cost of the goods sold? Yes, it's 27 lakh into the holding period of 1 month. So this is 27 lakh into 1 by 12. So if I do that, it's going to give me 27 lakh into 1 divided by 12. That's giving me how much? 2,25,000. Debtors are going to be based on credit sales and the collection period. So we have debtors which are going to be based on credit sales and the collection period. So we now assume all sales to be on credit. That's 36 lakh into 2 by 12. And that's going to give me 6 lakh rupees. I think question has clearly mentioned about cash bank. So cash bank is 1 lakh. Any prepaid expenses? Yes. The total expenses for the year are 1,20,000. टोटल साल का खर्चा 120 है, लेकिन जिसके साथ हम लोग कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंटर करेंगे फॉर से एडवर्टाइजमेंट एंड ऑन, वो बोलता है 3 महीने का पेमेंट एडवांस में. अरे तुमको 3 महीने का पेमेंट एडवांस में देना पड़ेगा, तो कहने से उतना पैसा मुझे रेस करना पड़ेगा. सो आई वुड से दिस वुड बी प्रीपेड sales promotion expenses. And how will I get that? That's going to be 1,20,000 into 3 by 12. So I would say 1,20,000 into 3 by 12. That's giving me the answer 30,000. Now when I sum it up, that's going to be 3 lakh here, 9 lakh, 10 lakh, 10 lakh 30,000. So this year answer comes 10 lakh 30,000. Are you getting it, friends, what I'm doing here? Now creditors. So we are done with the current assets. Now we have to focus on the creditors. Creditors are based on what? Creditors are based on credit purchases. But sir, income statement में तो कहीं पर भी credit purchases नहीं दिख रहा है. Since all activities evenly spread, opening stock of raw material, closing stock of raw material will be the same. So purchases automatically will be equal to material consumed. So you can simply take 9 lakh and do the customers give us, oh sorry, suppliers give us any credit period? Yes, 2 months. That is 2 by 12. So I would say 9 lakh into 2 divided by 12. That's giving me 1,50,000. So these will be the creditors. Any outstanding expenses? Yes. एक बार चेक कर लेते हैं क्या क्या चीजें हमने कंसिडर कर ली है, तो अपने को क्लू रहेगा. तो वी हैव कंसिडर्ड RM, वी हैव कंसिडर्ड FG, कैश बैंक, सेफ्टी मार्जिन विल कम एट द एंड, डेटर्स हो गया, क्रेडिटर्स हो गया एंड प्रीपेड हो गया. कहने से एक सेफ्टी मार्जिन और ये तीनों आउटस्टैंडिंग एक्सपेंसेस पेंडिंग है. अब जैसे ही वर्ड आउटस्टैंडिंग हुआ, कहने से इट इज गोइंग टू बी डीलेड. व्हेन यू डीले द पेमेंट, उतना पैसा आपको आज जरूरत नहीं है. क्यों? क्योंकि उतना पैसा आज आपको पे नहीं करना है, तो उतना पैसा आपको कम रेस करना पड़ेगा. So now, since the delay is of 1 month for all the expenses, what I can do is I can simply add up all the expenses. Now, which expenses are to be paid? Which can be delayed? Wages, manufacturing expenses, depreciation is non-cash. उसका डिले नहीं होता है पेमेंट करने के लिए. तो डायरेक्ट वेजेस, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एक्सपेंसेस, एडमिन एक्सपेंसेस. नाउ सिंस delay is having 1 month delay, all these expenses are having 1 month delay, you can simply sum it up and you can give the heading outstanding expenses, which is going to be 7,20,000 plus 9,60,000 plus 2,40,000 into 1 by 12. So I would say 7,20,000 plus 9,60,000 plus 2,40,000 into 1 divided by 12. That's giving me how much? 1,60,000. And the total of my current liability here now will be 3,10,000. And current assets minus the current liabilities will give me the working capital requirement of 7,20,000. तो यहाँ पे working capital on total basis आ गया 7,20,000. अब अगर मैं यही सम आपको कैश कॉस्ट बेसिस पे सॉल्व करने बोलूं फ्रेंड्स, सो आई एम डन विद द टोटल बेसिस. कैश कॉस्ट बेसिस देखते हैं. चलो, वैल्यूज कहाँ चेंज होने वाली हैं? एक तो ये कैश कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, यानी इसमें डेप्रीसिएशन था, वो नॉन कैश, वो हटा दिया, तो इट इज 25,80,000. तो इधर जो भी वैल्यूएशन होगा वो चेंज होगा एंड डेटर्स और ये चेंज हो जाएंगे. पर चेक करते हैं, स्टॉक ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल इज बेस्ड ऑन रॉ मटेरियल कंज्यूम एंड द होल्डिंग पीरियड. क्या ये फिगर चेंज हुआ कैश कॉस्ट इनकम स्टेटमेंट में? क्या ये फिगर चेंज हुआ? नो. सो दिस विल रिमेन द सेम. सो आई कैन स्ट्रेट अवे कॉपी द अमाउंट एज इट इज 75,000 इग्नोर WIP, तो हमने इग्नोर कर दिया. FG now is based on COGS. तो COGS 27 lakh था, इधर हो गया 25,80,000. So that figure will undergo change into 1 by 12. So I would now say 25,80,000 into, or rather divide by 12 कर देते हैं direct. So this is 2,15,000. तो यानी कि मैं बोल सकता हूं कि 2,25,000 is the amount that I will write while preparing the balance sheet. Valuation में 225 लिखूंगा, लेकिन उस 225 में मेरा जो रोकड़ा ब्लॉक होगा वो सिर्फ 2,15,000 ब्लॉक होगा. Did you get this? Okay. Debtors now are not going to be valued on sales because it had element of profit. So you will now take 29,40,000 into 2 by 12. So I would say 29,40,000 into 2 divided by 12. That's going to give you 4,90,000. Cash bank stays the same, 1 lakh. Even prepaid expenses will remain same. I would say, friends, the change between total basis and cash cost basis will appear only at 3 places. WIP वो तो इस समय इग्नोर करने बोला है, क्योंकि WIP में भी component of depreciation रहेगा, तो उसको इग्नोर करना है. There will be change in finished goods. This has element of depreciation, there is no element of depreciation. Then debtors will change. It has 2 elements, one of depreciation, the other is profit, so we are ignoring it. And now when I take the total, that's going to be 75,000 plus 2,15,000 plus 4,90,000 plus 1 lakh plus 30,000. So that's coming to 9,10,000 here. Your creditors amount won't undergo change, and so will your other current liabilities. So that's going to still be 3,10,000 minus 3,10,000 karo, so we get the answer 6 lakh. So working capital requirement on total basis is 7,20,000, and we have 6 lakh for the cash cost basis. Now there is one more point that needs to be added. I'll explain you what is that one more point, that is of the safety margin. Now understand it here, friends, please. I'm explaining उसमें वो सिर्फ आपको नीचे एक ऐड करना पड़ेगा, add safety margin of 20%, but मैं उसका लॉजिक बताता हूँ क्या है. If I explain the balance sheet which I prepared at the start, let's presume we are discussing on total basis. Let's presume here. Now we will require money to start or run the business. How much money I should raise depends on how much we are planning to invest. Invest where? Invest our money in fixed asset. तो let's presume हमने रिसर्च किया कि हमको ये बिजनेस के लिए 20 लाख के फिक्स्ड असेट्स लगेंगे. फिर पता चला कि 20 लाख से काम नहीं चलेगा, तो if you require fixed assets of 20 lakh, will you raise 20 lakh only? No. For smooth working of this fixed asset, we will require extra capital. We did our estimate, we realized that we'll require working capital of 7,20,000. So my dear friends, should I raise now 20 lakh only? No, I'll raise 27.2 lakh. 27.2 lakh. Next question, what is the safety margin? Honestly think and tell me, honestly, ये जो फिगर आपने डिराइव करके मुझे दिया है 7,20,000 का, वो एक्चुअल है या एस्टिमेटेड? Purely an estimate. And can I say estimates can go wrong? Is it possible or not that your estimates can go wrong? Yes. So for safety purpose, don't you think we should raise less money? No, we should raise more because your estimates might go wrong. तो उन्होंने क्या बोला है? Add safety margin. कितना safety margin add करूं? 20%. यानी कि I will add 1.44 lakh here. It means what I should now do is I should raise 20 lakh to meet my fixed assets requirement, and I would raise 8,64,000 for my working capital. तो 20 लाख से हम लोग फिक्स एसेट बाय करेंगे और बाकी का 8,64,000 will be used to meet the working capital requirement. So safety margin means what? Since these are purely estimates which might go wrong, and to to be, to be having, a situation where we don't have to stop our operating activities, we need to raise a bit higher amount. So ideally, I'm running short of space, friends, here, but I would suggest that once you have written this working capital requirement here below this, you please do write down add safety margin. Here you would add safety margin 20%. This will be 1,44,000, this will be 1,20,000. When you add up both these things, then the resultant will be termed as total working capital. So we would then add safety margin 1,44,000 and 1,20,000, take up the total, that will be the working capital requirement on total basis. Is it clear, friends? So this is your entire sum of working capital estimation. Though the question was only about cash cost basis, I solved it using both the techniques. So you should be aware that in case if the institute asks a question, solve the same sum but on total basis, तो आपको पता चलना चाहिए कि हमने ये ढूंढा कैसे है. Depreciation बैलेंसिंग फिगर कैसे बना, COGS मिल गया, and rest part of the income statement is manageable. Is it okay? So I'm done with this sum, and I would suggest that you please do refer this sum during your exam time, and if possible you can take a entire screenshot of this sum, because that's going to give you a bird eye view कि पूरे sum में है क्या. Okay, so we are done with question number 1, friends. Let's take up the next one. That's going to be question number 2 now. This is again an interesting sum. So let's read. So there is one sum that is exclusively for total basis, and the next sum thereafter is on cash cost basis. So let's read. Bhargava Limited furnishes you with the following details with the request to calculate estimated working capital requirement on total basis. Clearly it has been specified that it is on total basis. Credit 2 months credit to domestic customers and 3 months to overseas buyers. Suppliers to give us 1 month's credit. Time lag 1 month in respect of all expenses except sales promotion expenses which are payable in advance on quarterly basis. Projected figures for the year 11-12 are given. So we have domestic sales, we have export sales, wages, manufacturing expenses, admin expense, sales promotion expenses. Inventories to be maintained as follows: raw material 1 month for domestic, 2 months for exports. Finished goods 1 month for domestic and 3 months for exports. Gross profit is to be maintained at 25% on sales, while the overseas buyers are to be allowed a special 10% discount. Special packing credit limits are available on 90% of export stock of raw material and debtors, and an additional cash balance is to be maintained as safety margin, which is equivalent to 10% of total working capital. So now we are done with reading the question. The required part of the sum is estimate the working capital requirement, and this working capital requirement is to be done on what basis? It is to be done on total basis. The moment we are done with reading this part of the question, what we now have to do? Immediately get ready with the format. Now I have the liberty, I have just erased off the figures of the previous sum, so I don't have to rewrite and prepare the format again. So but you guys will be doing the same thing. First you will prepare the format first, and once this format is ready, then as I told you, and I will again tell you, your working note 1 heading should be the income statement, and working note 2 heading will be the credit periods. So we have to give the heading working note 2, that's going to be credit periods. Now once this format, मतलब format नहीं बनाना है आपको, मैं अभी भी बोल रहा हूँ format नहीं बनाना है, just give the heading income statement blank, leave half the page, working note to credit period, then read the question again, reread it. Either you will first finish off the credit periods or you will first finish off the income statement. Whichever information is available first, begin with that and you can first finish off. So first either target credit period, तो अगर सब information पहले credit period का दिया है तो पहले मैं credit periods को tackle करूंगा, else I would go for income statement. So let's start now. Bhargava Limited furnishes you with the following details with the request to calculate the working capital requirement on total basis. Credit 2 months credit to domestic customers and 3 months to overseas buyers. Now friends, what's the situation here? This company is having two class of customers. The one which are domestic and the others which are overseas. Now they are offering 2 months credit to the domestic customers and we are offering 3 months to overseas buyers. Now does that mean that the total credit period being offered is 5 months? No, not at all. So some customers are getting 2 months credit period, some class of customers are getting 3 months credit period. What do you think now will be required? Tell me friends, what do you think? What will be required now? According to you, what should we now do? Since we have different class of customers with different credit periods, whatever sales here we have, these are always annual sales and that is for all customers. Since we have different credit period here, you will require bifurcation of these total sales. तो जो भी सेल्स होगा टोटल सेल्स एनुअल बेसिस पे, यू नीड टू हैव दिस बाइफर्केशन कि इसमें से डोमेस्टिक कितना, ओवरसीज कितना. बिकॉज इफ यू डोंट हैव दिस बाइफर्केशन you will not be able to calculate the amount getting locked up in the form of debtors. तो मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा, मुझे मेरे इनकम स्टेटमेंट को भी बाइफर्केट करना पड़ेगा इनटू डोमेस्टिक, इनटू ओवरसीज, and third could be the total. If you want, you can combine it as well, then you will have to do a lot of working there. Choice is yours. I'm taking a bifurcation here, so I will require bifurcation of my total sales into domestic and overseas. Fine. Then what they say, suppliers, that is the creditors, will give me a credit period of 1 month. Acha, is it for making domestic purchase, is it for making overseas purchase, or total? Total. Abhi supplier will never ask us why are you making the purchases, is it for overseas or is it for a domestic. वो क्या बोलेगा, तुम domestic के लिए purchase करो, overseas के लिए बेचो, खरीदो या उसको जला डालो, I want my money back in 1 month. Okay. Time lag, what do you understand by the word time lag? Delay. So the delay in payment of expenses is how many months? 1 month. So I would say outstanding expenses, this is 1 month. So we don't need the bifurcation here. Which are, and the sales promotion expense are payable in advance on quarterly basis. So we'll say there is prepaid sales promotion. And we will prepay 3 months ka expenses in advance. Okay, perfect. So we have considered the information about adjustment 1 and adjustment 2. Adjustment 3, projected figures are given, sales, export sales and all that stuff is given. Can I say that will help me to prepare income statement? But I am not going to consider it at present. The reason being, first let me finish off my credit periods. So for the time being, third adjustment, we are keeping it pending. Now they are giving us information about the inventories, raw material, 1 month for domestic and 2 months for export supplies. Now you guys think and tell me, we have different holding period for different stock of raw material. So we have different holding period for domestic purchase and overseas. Why do we keep stock of raw material? So that we use it, we consume it. So stock of raw material, it is based on raw materials consumed. अब since यहाँ पर different holding period है, it means जो भी total material consumed होगा ना friends, I will require its bifurcation into domestic and overseas. Are you getting it what I'm telling you? So since we have different credit periods for stock of raw material holding period, bifurcation of my total material consumed is a must. In short, जो जो वेरिएबल का डिफरेंट डिफरेंट क्रेडिट पीरियड होगा ना, उधर उस चीज का बाइफर्केशन लगेगा. Is that crystal clear? Okay. Now what they say, the holding period of FG is 1 month here, and we have 3 months here. So now you tell me friends, stock of FG is based on what? Cost of goods sold. यानी जो भी total COGS होगा उसका भी bifurcation लगेगा, because we have a different holding period here. So I've considered the fourth adjustment. Fifth, GP is to be maintained at 25% of sales, while overseas buyers are to be allowed a special 10% discount. अब इसका use क्या है वो मैं आपको बाद में बताऊंगा. If required we will use it, else not we will ignore it. Sixth one, they say special packing credit limit. So you have special packing credit, and that special packing credit given is at the rate 90%. Now what is this packing credit? I'll tell you in a while. And we have safety margin of 10%. So we have safety margin. Okay, fine. So except for that third adjustment, that is the table, and the fifth adjustment, I can conclude every information has been considered here, except for the third and the fifth one we have considered. So let's dump these values now. Projected figures for the year 11-12 are given. Can I say friends, that can help me of domestic sales and export sales दिया है, उससे मेरा income statement ready हो सकता है. So we are preparing estimation of working capital on total basis, तो मुझे ये values भी consider करना पड़ेगा. So total domestic sales 1,80,000 है, overseas sales 36,000 है. मतलब कहने से my total sales are 2,16,000. अब अगर आप notice करो, holding period of debtors different है यहाँ पे, collection period of debtors different है, तो बाइफर्केशन ऑफ टोटल सेल्स मुझे चाहिए था, वो अवेलेबल है. नहीं दिया होता तो मुझे कहीं ना कहीं से ढूंढना पड़ता है ये बाइफर्केशन, बट इट इज अवेलेबल. नाउ वेजेस कितना है? 42,000. दैट इज अ टोटल वेजेस. अच्छा, डू आई नीड टू हैव बाइफर्केशन ऑफ दिस वेजेस डोमेस्टिक ओवरसीज? नो, बिकॉज आउटस्टैंडिंग वेजेस 1 मंथ है टोटल. समझ में आ रहा है? सेम गोज फॉर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, दैट्स 57,000. देन नेक्स्ट, what's the next item appearing? Then we have administrative expense. So admin expense हम लोग सीधा लिख सकते हैं यहाँ पे. That's going to be 60,000, and sales promotion expenses are going to be 30,000. That will give me the total operating cost, add the profits, and the job is done. Now, so friends, can I say even the third information has been considered? I've considered domestic sales, export sales, wages, manufacturing expense, admin, selling. But still my income statement is not ready yet. Until the time my income statement is not ready, चलो क्रेडिट पीरियड तो मिल गया, लेकिन इनकम स्टेटमेंट जब तक रेडी नहीं होगा ना, तब तक मैं आगे प्रोसीड नहीं कर सकता हूँ. तो अभी आप मुझे बताइए कैसे प्रिपेयर करूं मैं अपना इनकम स्टेटमेंट. क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 में, if you remember, when I was estimating the working capital requirement total basis, GP ratio was used somewhere to calculate what? COGS. If I get COGS here, see, understand, if I get COGS here, you work downwards, ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट मिल जाएगा, एड प्रॉफिट सेल्स मिल जाएगा, और COGS मिल गया, ऊपर वर्क करोगे तो ये बैलेंसिंग फिगर मिल जाएगा. So how can I calculate that? So that's going to be my working note number 3, calculation of COGS. Calculation of COGS. Now understand friends, what is the GP ratio given? GP ratio given is 25%. Am I correct? GP ratio given is 25%? Yes. So if I use that formula, sales is equal to COGS plus gross profit. If I use this formula, and if I say my sales figure is 100, so GP becomes 25. It means, can I say COGS here will be 75. अब तीनों में से एक भी चीज अवेलेबल होगी ना तो मेरा बात बन जाएगा. अब मैक्सिमम पीपल क्या मिस्टेक कर सकते हैं, देखो, you would start with 2,16,000, you may get COGS here, तो इससे आपको ये टोटल COGS मिल जाएगा. But since stock of FG holding period is different, total COGS will be of no use. I want a breakup also of this thing. So what I can now do is, if I can somehow manage to get domestic COGS, overseas COGS, I can add up, ये तो total मिल जाएगा, and two purposes will be solved. It will help me to complete my income statement. I'll get the bifurcation as well. So rather than taking the data on total basis, we can do the discussion first for domestic. So what is the domestic sales? It is 1,80,000. So when I cross multiply, how much is the domestic COGS coming to? Check karo please. 135? Yes, it's 1,35,000. So this becomes 1,35,000. और इसका फायदा क्या? फायदा ये है कि ये अमाउंट हम यहां पर लिख देंगे 1,35,000. Similarly, now if I do the calculation for overseas, that is the exports, formula still stays the same, friends. Sales is equal to COGS plus the gross profit. Now you know, many people, what they'll do, the mistake, to make export sales, we are giving them a special discount of 10%. तो यानी मेरा selling price यहाँ पर हो जाएगा 90. Maximum students, what they will do, 25% है GP, तो they will apply 25% of this on selling price 22.5, और ये कुछ मिल जाएगा I think 67.5. This will go wrong. If you apply 25% on that sales for exports, it will go wrong. Why, sir? Why it will go wrong? You apply common sense. Why do you think doing this 22.5% is wrong? See, friends, let's take it this way. Let's presume we are manufacturers and selling of these pens. क्या ये पेन को पता होगा कि ये कहाँ बिकने वाला है? Obviously not. आप इसको डोमेस्टिक मार्केट में बेचो या ओवरसीज में, इसको प्रोड्यूस करने का खर्चा तो सेम ही है. यानी अगर आप इधर प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो तो 75 रुपीज लगेगा, तो कहने से इधर प्रोड्यूस करोगे तो यहां पर भी 75 लगेगा. सो बाय ऑफरिंग डिस्काउंट आप क्या कर रहे हो? यू आर रिड्यूसिंग योर प्रॉफिट्स. तो यहां पे माय मार्जिन विल बिकम 15. आर यू गेटिंग इट? व्हाई माय मार्जिन विल डिक्रीज? बिकॉज आई एम ऑफरिंग डिस्काउंट. My cost will remain same, friends. My margins will get hit because of offering discount. So now if I consider sales figure here of how much, what is the sales figure? 36,000. So when I cross multiply, that's going to give me the COGS of 30,000. और ये 30,000 rupees हम यहाँ पर लिख सकते हैं. So this is going to be 30,000. And now when you sum it up, it is 1,65,000. So we are doing these additions here. ये मुझे वर्किंग नोट 3 से मिला है, ये दो वैल्यूज, और एक बार ये 165 मिला, वी कैन मूव डाउनवर्ड्स हियर, और इससे हमका इनकम स्टेटमेंट कंप्लीट हो जाएगा. सो दैट्स गोइंग टू बी 2,55,000 आई गेस, एंड द बैलेंसिंग फिगर हियर 39,000. वी आर गोइंग टू मेक अ लॉस. यू वर्क रिवर्स एंड यू विल बी गेटिंग द मटेरियल कंज्यूम्ड एज वेल. सो यहां से हम लोग रिवर्स वर्किंग कर रहे हैं, एंड आई थिंक दिस गिव्स यू 66,000, करेक्ट? Yes. So this is my first balancing figure. This becomes my second balancing figure. And believe me, all the values now are available except one. देखो, debtors holding period, collection period is different. Bifurcation of sales is required. वो मिल गया. Stock of FG is based on holding period of FG and COGS. COGS का bifurcation available है. सिर्फ raw material use, इस raw material consume, उसका bifurcation available नहीं है friends मेरे पास. तो what can I now do to get the bifurcation? That's also very simple. To produce goods worth rupees 1,65,000. Understand? To produce goods worth rupees 1,65,000, we used material of 66,000. इतना प्रोड्यूस करने के लिए इतना मटेरियल लगा, तो इतना प्रोड्यूस करने के लिए कितना? So I would say 54,000 laga. And to produce this much, I will require material of rupees 12,000. That is, this will be calculated in the ratio of COP. in ratio of cost of production, because these are all expenses related to production. If suppose bifurcation of selling expenses would have been required, no, I would have done it on the basis of sales, but these are costs related to production, तो उसका bifurcation production ratio में ही होना चाहिए. Did you get this, friends? Pakka. Now, for your kind information, you would realize my income statement is ready, my credit periods are also done. Estimation, we all know, becomes the easiest task of all now. So let's finish off with that estimation, and the question is estimate the working capital requirement on total basis. So let's do that now. Let's start with stock of raw material. Tell me, chartered, raw material, stock of raw material, it is based on raw material consumed and the holding period. So if I say domestic stock of raw material, मेरे पास अभी दो क्लास रहेंगे यहाँ पे, एक डोमेस्टिक को बेचने के लिए और एक एक्सपोर्ट्स को बेचने के लिए. तो domestic stock of raw material is based on domestic material consumed and the domestic holding period. So I would say this way, this is 54,000 into 1 by 12, and in the next case this is going to be 12,000 into 2 by 12. So how much is this coming to? 4,500. Please check 4,500, and that's going to be 2,000. I'll just cross check whether the answer written is correct or not. So here in the first case it's going to be 54,000. Yes, 4,500. Any information anywhere given about WIP? No. So when no information given, we ignore it. Stock of FG also, now there will be two class. One is domestic and the other is exports. So domestic stock of FG is based on domestic COGS and the domestic holding period. मेरा domestic COGS 135 है, holding period 1 month है, तो 1,35,000 into 1 by 12. So that's going to be 11,250 here. And export stock is on export COGS into holding period. This is going to be 3 by 12. So 30,000 into 3 divided by 12. That's going to be 7,500. समझा? Now debtors. अभी debtors में भी दो class of customers हैं. मेरे पास एक है domestic and the other exports. So domestic, now domestic debtors are based on domestic sales and the domestic collection period. So I would say this is 1,80,000 into 2 by 12, and this is going to be 36,000 into 3 by 12. So 1,80,000 into 2 divided by 12, that's going to give me 30,000, and this is 36,000 into 3 divided by 12, that's giving me 9,000. समझा? भेजे में जा रहा है, मैं क्या कर रहा हूं? So what I have considered here is debtors. I have considered RM, FG. Achha, if you notice now, cash bank, they have nowhere specified. Rather, cash bank is considered to be a part of that special, what do we say, safety margin. वो वहां पर consider हो रहा है. Cash bank, we will not consider it here. Prepaid sales promotion expense 3 months in advance. Same things, friends. Now we have to just do the same working which we had done in the last sum. So we say 30,000 here into 3 by 12. So we have 30,000 into 3 by 12. That's giving me 7,500. Anything else? No. So we have creditors now. Creditors are based on purchases. Purchases equals material consumed. So we will simply take 66,000 into 1 by 12. So I think 5,500. So creditors are based on the purchases, but purchases will be equal to material consumed. तो वो 66,000 rupees ही लेना है, because creditors का bifurcation नहीं लगने वाला है हमको. Outstanding expenses 1 month, so we can have outstanding expenses 1 month. So that is 42,000 plus 57,000 plus admin expenses है, yes, 60,000 into 1 by 12. So that's going to be 13,250. So let me check what all things we have considered. We just considered creditors, we considered outstanding expenses, prepaid as well. सिर्फ दो चीजें रहती है फ्रेंड्स, एक है स्पेशल पैकिंग क्रेडिट और दूसरा है सेफ्टी मार्जिन. So let's check about the packing credit now. What exactly is packing credit? I'll explain you. Packing credit is like a loan or an advance which a company gets from a bank provided the company has a confirmed export order. It means this facility of packing credit is available only to the exporters. Is this company exporting goods? Yes. So this facility is available to that. It is like a loan or an advance which a company gets from a bank provided it has a confirmed export order. So it is available to the exporter and it is like a loan or an advance. The only thing is that you have to understand in case of these packing credits that this loan or an advance taken is to be liquidated within 6 months. So you have to repay the loan within a span of 6 months. It means, if it is to be paid in 6 months time, it becomes what? A current liability. So there will be one more current liability here that's going to be of special packing credit. अब ये amount कैसे ढूंढना है? देखो, special packing credit. Let's understand. I'll explain you the same with the help of a small balance sheet. If you can just have a look at this small balance sheet. As I told you that we are having a facility of packing credit. तो वो packing credit मेरे लिए यहाँ पे एक लोन बन जाएगा. अब अगर आप ये लोन बैंक से ले रहे हो तो don't you think bank will undoubtedly ask for some securities? They will require security. So the question says this packing credit facility is available which is going to be to the extent of 90% stock of raw material and export debtors. तो जो भी आपका स्टॉक है, लेकिन कौन सा स्टॉक? एक्सपोर्ट स्टॉक, वो भी कौन सा? ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल. एंड वॉट एवर आर दी एक्सपोर्ट डेटर्स, ये आपको सिक्योरिटी देना पड़ेगा. And against that you will be getting a loan from the bank. Now export stock of raw material कितना? Export stock बोल रहा हूँ. Maximum people in the class will say, sir, export stock of raw material है ना, ये रहा 12,000. That is wrong. वो stock of raw material नहीं है, वो मेरा material use हुआ है. That's not the stock of raw material. That's going to be in my go down. I will always have stock of rupees 2,000. तो मेरे गोडाउन में जो स्टॉक पड़ा रहेगा वो 2000 का. दिस इज एक्सपोर्ट स्टॉक ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल. दिस इज नॉट एन एक्सपोर्ट स्टॉक ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल, इट इज मटेरियल कंज्यूम. दिस इज द स्टॉक ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल. These are not export debtors, these are export sales. Export debtors ये रहे 7,000 नहीं 9,000 rupees के. So against this 2,000 and 9,000 I will give this as security. I will tell the bank people, देख भाई at a time मेरे गोडाउन में 2,000 का माल पड़ा होता है. इन केस मैं ये लोन रीपे ना कर दूं ना तो वो माल तेरा. एवरेज अमाउंट रिसीवेबल फ्रॉम माय डेटर्स इज 9,000. अगर मैं तुम्हारा पैकिंग क्रेडिट का लोन नहीं दूं ना तो वो जो भी कलेक्शन होगा वो तुम्हारा. अब against this 11,000 is bank going to give me exact 11,000? No, bank is going to give me only to the extent of 90%. So I'll get a loan of 9,900. समझा? So this special packing credit is available to the extent of 90% of the export stock of raw material and export debtors. And since that is a current liability, अभी होगा क्या? अगर सपोज इस बंदे ने मुझे इतना पैसा नहीं दिया होता तो मुझे इतना पैसा रेस करना पड़ता. अब उतना पैसा कम रेस करना पड़ेगा बिकॉज मुझे उतना पैसा बैंक फाइनेंस करके देने वाला है. Else I would have to raise that money on my own. So now I can say my special packing credit limit here will come to 9,900. And how did I get that? That's going to be 2,000 stock of raw material plus 9,000 export debtors, uska 90%. I hope you guys have followed this one. So we considered the special packing credit. Just understand it is like a loan or an advance which we can get against a confirmed export order. And the only thing that is now left is the safety margin. Now to solve that part of the safety margin, what I need to do is I need to take the total here. So that's going to be 4,500 plus 2,000 plus 11,250 plus 7,500 plus 30,000 plus 9,000. So that is 64, I think something 64 तो नहीं होगा, 4,500 plus 2,000 plus 11,250 plus 7,500 plus 30,000 plus 9,000 plus 7,500. So that is giving me 71,750. तो ये हो गया 71,750. इसमें से करंट लायबिलिटीज हम लोग माइनस कर देंगे. So that is 28,650. So I would say 71,750 minus 28,650. That's giving me 43,100 A minus B. Now there is one more catch here, friends. One more catch. Understand, I'm writing that part here. So once I get this working capital, I'm writing that value here, friends. This is information for special packing credit. And this is that value that I'm writing. So I calculated working capital, which is A minus B, and I calculated 43,100. Now, then we would have added safety margin here at 10%, and then we would have calculated total working capital. So you know, in a hurry to solve the sum, what people do in the class, 43,100, 4,310, and my working capital requirement is 47,410. That's wrong again. That's wrong again. Because if you read the question carefully, they say the working capital, the safety margin is 10% of the total working capital. मतलब अगर आपका total working capital 100 है, तो ये 10 होना चाहिए और ये 90. Now I would say 43,100 divided by 90 into 10, that is going to be 4,789, and 47,889, that's going to be the working capital requirement. So this was a catch in this sum. So you need to read the question carefully, that it is 10% not of working capital. Last sum it was not working capital, but here it is 10% of the total working capital, not just working capital alone. Did you get this, friends? Pakka? So this was entire solution of question number 2 for you guys. The catch was, एक तो mistake यहाँ पे हो सकता था कि भाई sales 100 लेते और आप cost कम कर देते, तो that would create a mistake here. This is one point. The unique point about this was the special packing credit also, that was unique. Safety margin is on total working capital, and there were different credit periods here for different scenarios or different variables. तो जहां जहां credit period different होगा, वहां पे मुझे income statement में भी bifurcation लगेगा. Is it okay? So this was the catch for this sum. So we are done with this question number 2 as well. One more remains that we'll discuss in a while. So we have taken up question number 2 now. There is one more sum that is remaining that we'll discuss and we'll finish it off. But before I begin with that sum, I would like to do some small explanation that is about valuing the WIP. If you would have realized, first sum and the second which I solved for you guys, either question upfront mentioned ignore WIP, or it didn't give us information about the conversion period, hence we ignored it. But now let us understand how the valuation is to be done of WIP. For better understanding, let me take an example. Suppose material consumed, raw material consumed are say rupees 36,000. Wages, direct wages, that is required to convert this raw material into finished goods are say worth rupees 24,000, and let's presume manufacturing expenses are 60,000 rupees. So when I'm taking up the total here, that's coming to 1,20,000. This becomes COP, and since all activity is evenly spread, this itself becomes the COGS. Okay, now once you have the COP and the COGS, then what is going to be the next task? If I now tell you holding period of FG, I'm first starting with FG. holding period of FG is 1 month. So what we would have done? What is the way to calculate stock of finished goods? Stock of finished goods is based on cost of the goods sold and the holding period. So what I would have done, I would have taken 1,20,000 into 1 by 12. That would have given me the answer 10,000. Now, could you please tell me what does this 10,000 indicate? This is the money that is expected to be locked up in the form of finished goods. Acha, is it locked up only for 1 month period? No. Then this implies that at any given point of time, since customers can come at any point of time, you will be maintaining goods worth rupees 10,000 in your godown. So this is not just money locked up for 1 month. Understand that this is money locked up at any point of time. Now, I can get the same answer of 10,000 in a different way. How? Let's understand. So I would say, instead of taking 120 into 1 by 12, can I write it like this? 36,000 into 1 by 12, 24,000 into 1 by 12, and 60,000 into 1 by 12. So if I do that, this is giving me an answer of rupees 3,000. This is 2,000, and I am getting the answer here 5,000, making a total of rupees 10,000. So what I'm telling you is, whether you take total into 1 by 12, or you take individual values and then you multiply it with 1 by 12, you'll still get the same answer. Acha, you think and tell me, will I get a different answer if I write these values like this: into 1 by 12, into 100%, into 100%, and into 100%? Will I get a different answer? No, not at all. It will still give me the same values. Okay, so friends, tell me, what does this 100% indicate? I have not yet started with WIP. I am just discussing about finished goods. What does this 100% here indicate? This 100% here, friends, is indicating nothing but the stage of completion, the degree of completion. So I can say this way: these are value of the goods. Understand the wordings, please. These are worth of goods which are 100% complete in respect of raw material. Labor has also done 100% of the work. Overheads are also allocated 100%. That's the reason why these are finished goods. That's the reason why these are finished goods. If I now tell you, suppose instead of this making 100%, this is 50%. So then this becomes 2,500. Then my answer here will change to 7,500. Will you still call this as finished goods? No, these are value of the goods which are agreed 100% complete in respect of raw material. Labor has done 100% of the task. I can say 50% of work in respect of manufacturing expenses done, 50% is still remaining. You can say this way: packing must have not been done. वो बिस्किट लूज बिस्किट्स है, जब तक पैक नहीं होगा तब तक तो हम लोग नहीं बेच पाएंगे. So packing still remains, and we can call this as the value of the goods which is in process. So when I keep this as 100%, then I'm getting the value 10,000, which signifies that these value of goods are 100% complete in respect of raw material. Labor has done 100% of the job, and the overheads are also 100% allocated. So now if I tell you processing period is also 1 month. Now if I say processing period is 1 month, तो formula के basis पे जाइए. मैंने आपको क्या बोला था? Stock of WIP is based on COP and the conversion period, and I told you that is actually wrong. Why it is wrong? Now let's understand that why it is wrong. Stock of WIP is based on COP and the conversion period. So what I would have done, 1,20,000 into 1 by 12. If I do that, I'll get the answer 10,000. Now the moment I'm writing this here as 1,20,000 into 1 by 12, what blunder, what error am I committing? You valued the stock of finished goods also, can I say, on this amount only. So you took FG on this amount, 1,20,000, you're taking WIP also on the same value. That will be wrong. The error that we are now committing here would be what, we conclude that then there is no difference between WIP and finished goods. So I can't directly take 1,20,000 into 1 by 12. That will be wrong. That would signify that I am assuming that there is no difference between finished goods and WIP. Is there a difference? Yes. What is WIP? WIP, friends, is incomplete finished goods. Incomplete finished goods. So when I now say again, let's value finished goods. So what you would have done, 36, 24, 60 into 1 by 12 into 100%. अब जब मैं 100% से मल्टीप्लाई कर रहा हूं तो कहने से यही गुड्स फिनिश गुड्स हो जाएंगे, यही गुड्स आई वुड से 100% कंप्लीट इन रॉ मटेरियल, 100% लेबर, 100% ओवरहेड्स. बट अगर मैं इसको 50% कर दूं तो will you still call this goods now to be finished in nature? No. So now this will be value of the goods which are in process. These are incomplete goods. समझ में आ रहा है? So I won't need just the conversion period. For valuing WIP, I will not just require this conversion period, but along with I will also need the degree of completion, the stage of completion. If I make this also say 50%, then I would say this way, ये आंसर आएगा 1000 और ये हो जाएगा 6000. So what does it mean now? 1000 and 6500. Rather, I would say, what does it mean? This is the value of the goods which are incomplete yet. Incomplete in respect of what? Raw material तो 100% infuse हो गया है, लेबर ने 50% काम कर लिया है, ओवरहेड्स 50% allocate हो गया. जब तक ये 50% पूरा 100% नहीं होगा तब तक वो incomplete goods ही रहेंगे. So understand, friends, what I'm trying to tell you here is to value WIP, conversion period is not just sufficient. Along with conversion period, I would need extra data of what? I would need extra data of what? Of the degree of completion, the stage of completion. Till the time I don't have that extra data, I cannot estimate the working capital requirement, and in respect of that, WIP possibility will not be there. तो सर हम लोग क्या करें? अगर सर हमको सिर्फ क्वेश्चन कन्वर्जन पीरियड देगा और ये डिग्री ऑफ कंप्लीशन अगर नहीं देगा तो हम क्या करें? तो then you assume, and the best possible assumption would be assume raw material is 100% complete, overheads, that is the conversion cost, that is wages and overheads, 50% allocation is done. When will you assume this degree of completion? When no information is given. So suppose if the question already tells you that the degree of completion is 100% in respect of raw material and overheads and wages are 50% complete, so then you follow what the question says. If that is not given, then follow the assumption that I just mentioned. What type of different possible ways the question will tell you? The question will say the WIP 50% degree of completion, stage of completion in respect of all elements of cost. अगर ऐसा बोला है all elements of cost, तो in that case even raw material that I will take will also be 50%. If the question says the degree of completion is 50% in respect of conversion cost, सिर्फ conversion बोला है, तो then in that case ये हम लोग 100 ही assume करेंगे क्योंकि conversion cost तो ये हो जाएगा. Are you getting what I'm telling you? So you need to be careful while reading the question regarding the stage of completion. Nothing specified, 100%, 50%, 50%. So the thumb rule is, or rather I would say, if I summarize my data here, discussion here, for valuing WIP, conversion period is not sufficient. You need extra data, and the data that is required is of the conversion cost. If you have the conversion cost, then only you can do the estimation of WIP. Is it okay? Fine. So keep the stuff at the back of mind. We have one sum, that is question number 3. Let's finish off that sum, and that would be the end of the discussion for this chapter. There is one point that I would discuss about the financing one, so that I'll make you understand. What is it? Question number 3. A newly formed company has applied to the commercial bank for the first time to finance its working capital requirement. दिमाग का बत्ती जलना चाहिए इधर. Company is approaching a bank for working capital requirements. So the company is approaching and going to the bank for its working capital requirement. We will estimate the working capital requirement on what basis? Total basis or cash cost basis? Choice is first of all yours. इफ नो इन्फॉर्मेशन गिवन चॉइस इज एब्सोल्युटली योर्स। लेकिन ये कमर्शियल बैंक के पास अगर जा रहा है तो मैं सेफली कंक्लूड कर सकता हूं कि कमर्शियल बैंक मुझे डेप्रिसिएशन फाइनेंस नहीं करेगा, वो मुझे प्रॉफिट एलिमेंट भी फाइनेंस करके नहीं देगा। सो वी विल हैव टू वैल्यू द वर्किंग कैपिटल ऑन कैश कॉस्ट बेसिस। बट आई एम अगेन टेलिंग यू चॉइस इज completely yours. So the following information is available about the projections for the current year. So we have elements of cost, we have raw material, direct labor, overheads, total cost, profits, and then we have the sales. Other information is given. Raw material in stock, average 4 weeks consumption. WIP on an average half month. कंप्लीशन स्टेज 50%, उन्होंने बोला है 50% कंप्लीशन स्टेज। अभी कुछ आगे बोला नहीं है, तो वी अज्यूम दैट 50% कंप्लीशन स्टेज इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ ऑल एलिमेंट्स ऑफ कॉस्ट। On an average half month, finished goods in stock on an average 1 month, credit allowed by supplier is 1 month, credit allowed to debtors is 2 months, average time lag in payment of wages is 1.5 week and 4 weeks in overheads, cash on hand and at bank desired to be maintained at 50,000, all sales are on credit only। नहीं बोलता तो भी हम वही assume करते हैं। Prepare a statement showing estimation of working capital needed to finance an activity level of 96,000 units of production। Assume that the production is carried out on evenly throughout the year and wages and overheads accrue similarly. For the calculation purpose, 4 weeks may be taken as equivalent to a month and 52 weeks in a year. So we have to do the calculation basically on weekly basis, because they're telling you that calculation purpose you take 4 weeks, which will be equivalent to a month and 52 weeks in a year. Okay, now, so as I told you, the moment I have to estimate the working capital requirement, the first thing that I'll do is I'll get ready with my format. So fortunately I already have the format with myself, and I'm this time following cash cost basis, but I'm again telling you the choice is yours completely. So we have cash cost. Once this format is ready, then I would give the heading working note 1 income statement, and my next working note 2, is going to be for the credit periods. Okay, so let's read and finish off with this sum as well. First thing is, once your basic structure data is ready, then you have to just read the question again and just finish it off. Now, the company is giving us the following information regarding elements of cost, और वो जो data उन्होंने मुझे दिया है वो per unit data दिया है. So this is per unit. So I have raw material 40 rupees per unit. Labor charges me 15 rupees per unit. Overheads are 30 rupees, which is giving me cost of 85 rupees. And since admin and selling expenses are nowhere mentioned, you can simply ignore these things and we can simply make it as what? ये जो COP, COGS मिला है, इसी को हम लोग बोल सकते हैं total cost of rupees 85. And since I am preparing the estimation of working capital on cash cost basis, profit and sales element is of no use to us. But this is per unit data, friends. My objective is that I should have my income statement on annual basis. So can I get the answer on annual basis? Yes, because we are planning to produce around 96,000 units in a year. 96,000, right? Yes, 96,000. So we have 96,000 units into. Now that will be 40. So that's giving me 38 lakh 40,000. 15, and that's giving me 14 lakh 40,000. 30, that's giving me 28 lakh 80,000. And you have 85, so that's giving me 81 lakh 60,000. So now if you notice, bak karte karte, you would realize that my credit periods are ready, or rather not credit periods, income statement is ready. With the help of that other information, I can very well finish off my credit periods. The holding period of raw material RM is given to be 4 weeks. WIP is half a month, so WIP is actually 2 weeks and 50% completion stage बोला है. Okay, FG is 1 month, so FG we would take 4 weeks. Credit allowed by suppliers is 1 month, so creditors give me again 4 weeks time. We offer our debtors 8 weeks. Time lag in payment of wages 1.5 week, so we say outstanding wages is 1.5 week. Then we would say outstanding expenses overheads 4 weeks. Cash bank is 50,000. All sales are on credit. That's it. Now if you notice, full question data given has been captured, but my objective was never to capture the data. My objective is to estimate the working capital requirement. अब मैं estimate कैसे करूँगा? That's it. अभी तो simple चीज़ है friends. Stock of raw material, it is based on raw material consumed and the holding period. I have that, so this will be 38,40,000 into 4 by 52. So that's going to be giving me the stock of raw material. WIP 50% completion stage बोला है, तो मैं कैसे calculate कर सकता हूँ? See, understand. So I'll take 38,40,000 into 2 by 52 into 100%, or not 100% because they have given us completion stage of 50%, into 50% plus 14,40,000 into 2 by 52 into 50% plus 28,80,000 into 2 by 52 into 50%. So that will give me WA. I'm writing the values first. I'm just dumping the values. Stock of FG is going to be based on cost of the goods sold. That's going to be 81,60,000. And do we have the holding period of FG? Yes, I think 4 weeks. Debtors are based on credit sales, but since we are following cash cost basis, I'll value it on total cost. That's going to be 81,60,000 into 8 by 52, correct? Cash bank is 50,000, ये तो सीधा लिख सकते हैं हम लोग 50,000. There are no prepaid sales promotion expense, तो ये नहीं आएगा. Now creditors, but before I value the creditors, let me do the calculation here, friends, for you guys. 38,40,000 into 4 divided by 52. So that's giving me so that's 2,95,385, correct? Then 81,60,000 into 2 divided by 52 into 50%. So that is giving me 1,56,923. Then FG, this is 6,27,692. So that is going to be 12,55,385. So now we say 295,385 plus 156,923 plus 627,692 plus 1255,385 plus 50,000. So my total of the current assets here are 23,85,385. ठीक है. अब क्रेडिटर्स हम लोग क्या कर रहे थे फ्रेंड्स अब तक हर सम में? Creditors are based on purchases. Purchases were assumed to be equal to raw material consumed. Why? Because opening stock and closing stock were assumed to be same and hence purchases was becoming equal to raw material consumed. यहाँ पर वो ऐसा नहीं होगा. क्यों ऐसा नहीं होगा? क्योंकि the company is a newly established company, so it will not have any opening stock of raw material. But will it have closing stock of raw material? Yes. So there would be purchases of raw material minus the closing stock of raw material. That gives me the material consumed. This is a formula that we have learned, and I know the consumption is 38,40,000. That's this. My objective is to get these purchases, because now this time the company clearly mentioned is a newly established company, और अगर ये newly established company है तो I would say कि इसका opening stock नहीं होगा, closing होगा. And how much will be the closing stock of raw material, friends? At any point of time मेरे godown में 295, 385 का closing stock रहेगा at any point of time. अच्छा, if it is at any point of time, can I say it will be at the end as well? तो if it is going to be at the end, तो वही मेरा closing stock हो जाएगा 295, 385. So if I work reverse, then it was a 13,40,000 plus 295, 385. That's giving me 41,35,385. ये मेरा purchases हो जाएगा. So I will value the creditors on this amount, 41,35,385 into 4 by 52. So that's giving me how much? So we are now getting creditors as 3,18,106. और ये कैसे मिला? 41,35,185 into 4 by 52. ठीक है? So we have taken up the creditors. अब outstanding expenses, friends, wages है, तो wages 1.5 week, तो I have 14,40,000 into 1.5 by 52, and then other overheads are 28,80,000 into 4 by 52. So we would say this way, 14,40,000 into 1.5 divided by 52, that's giving me 41,538. Next case, 28,80,000 into 4 divided by 52, that's giving me 2,21,538. So I would say 318,106 plus 41,538 plus 221,538 gives me 5,81,182. 18,04,203. This is going to be the working capital requirement, and this working capital requirement, any safety margin has been specified by the question. Do we know how much safety margin we need to add? वो सब information नहीं दिया है, so that can be ignored. This is what is the amount of working capital that we will require on cash cost basis. So this was solution to question number 3. The point that you should refer is only that WIP, friends. The processing time is given and the element, the stage of completion is given. So since that values, that information is given, we'll follow what the question says. Else we would have taken an assumption, raw material 100%, labor overheads 50-50%. So this was solution to question number 3. So with this, I have covered up almost all the topics for working capital estimation. One financing of working capital remains that I'll explain you in a while. So the last thing that, as I just told you, remains is financing the working capital requirement. So what exactly is this concept here? Financing of working capital requirement. See friends, what we have just done here till now, if I explain you by way of that balance sheet which I took at the start of this lecture, we need capital. Now, how much capital we need to raise, that depends on how much we are planning to invest. Invest where? In fixed assets and in working capital. My research indicated that I will require fixed assets of 9 lakh, and since now we people are master of this chapter of estimation of working capital, we realize that by estimating the working capital I need extra 1 lakh. It means I am going to raise total 9 lakh for my fixed asset plus 1 lakh extra for working capital requirement. Till now, we were just finding out this working capital requirement. But one more question, so I'm not bothered with the fixed assets financing here. I have just discussed with you guys कि भाई मुझे extra 1 lakh rupees raise करना पड़ेगा. So if you have to raise this extra 1 lakh rupees, one more question which you will have to answer in practical life is, from where should I get this 1 lakh rupees? From where should I arrange this 1 lakh rupees? So you will ask me, sir, how many options do you have to arrange this? We have multiple options, but all those options can be classified into two types. So either if I want, I can arrange this entire money from long-term sources, or I can go for short-term sources. So the question is, once I come to know this requirement of 1 lakh rupees, कि भाई इतना extra चाहिए, so should I raise that entire 1 lakh rupees from long-term sources? Should I raise that entire requirement from short-term sources? Should I go for a combination of two? If yes, then how much? All the answers we have to give as well in reality, in practical life. So the point is now what, how much to raise from long term, how much to raise from short term, how much that you should raise from the combination of both. That depends upon your risk perception. If you are a risk averse person, that is a person who doesn't like to take risk, you would always prefer to finance your assets from long-term sources. Sir, why so? Why we should finance it from long-term sources? Because in case of long-term sources, repayment obligation of loan is not going to be immediate. You get time to develop your business. If you raise money from short-term sources, it has its own problems. The repayment obligation of short-term sources of finance is immediate. Business develop ही नहीं होगा कि lenders सर पे आके खड़े हो जाएंगे बोलेंगे पैसा रिटर्न दो. तो business develop भी नहीं हो गया, repayment obligation arises. So we say that if you raise money from long-term sources of finance, then it is having less risk because the repayment obligations are not immediate vis-a-vis what we have for short term. तो लॉन्ग टर्म का एक एडवांटेज है, इफ यू रेज फंड्स फ्रॉम लॉन्ग टर्म सोर्सेस इट हैज एडवांटेज ड्यू टू repayment obligations being in future, and after a long time there is going to be less of risk because we will be able to develop our business and then we'll be able to repay the amount. Whereas in case of short term sources, since repayment obligations are immediate, there's always going to be a risk of non-payment. So there's always going to be a risk here. This will be less of risk. Now, if you are a finance manager and if you want to take less of a risk, then you can finance that entire working capital requirement from long-term sources. Then the policy that you are following to finance this working capital requirement becomes conservative policy. So if I finance the working capital requirement from long-term sources, then we are following a conservative. We don't want to take risk. If you finance your working capital requirement from short-term sources, then you are following aggressive policy. That policy of financing the working capital requirement through short-term sources only is going to be aggressive, whereas in case of conservative it is, whereas in case of long-term sources you become conservative. Now, if you are raising money from short-term sources, there is going to be a high risk of non-payment. अच्छा, risk है तो कुछ ना कुछ advantage भी होगा ना. Usually cost of funding of these short-term sources of finance is less as compared to cost of long-term sources. तो अगर यहाँ पे cost कम होगा, profitability ज़्यादा होगा. यहाँ पे cost ज़्यादा है तो profitability कम होगा. So you're taking more risk, so you should be entitled to get more profit. You take less risk, you will be entitled to get less of profit. So the cost of long-term sources, cost is more That is, you have to pay high rate of interest. Cost is more as compared to short-term source of finance. So cost is more, profitability will be less. Risk is more, cost here is less, so profitability will be more. So we have these two approaches to finance the working capital, that is conservative and aggressive. There is one more policy that is called as hedging approach. There is one more policy which is known as hedging approach, and that hedging approach is called as matching approach. I will explain you. First of all, honestly tell me friends, please do not jump to conclusion, take your time and think and tell me. एक बार आपने फाइंड आउट कर लिया कि 1 लाख रुपीस चाहिए वर्किंग कैपिटल, डू यू रियली थिंक योर रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ वर्किंग कैपिटल will remain same throughout the year? Do you think that कि working capital 1 lakh every time 1 lakh throughout the year? No. If it is a seasonal business, depending upon season to seasons, your requirement of working capital will fluctuate. But if I now tell you this way, if I present a graph here for better understanding, let's presume this is my timeline. So I'm making x-axis as my timeline and y-axis is my working capital requirement. Let's presume our business is say selling ice creams. So to sell those ice creams, we need to keep those ice creams in a refrigerator. तो आई रियलाइज दैट द रेफ्रिजरेटर विल कॉस्ट मी से ₹9 लाख, तो मुझे 9 लाख रुपीस तो रेस करना ही पड़ेगा यहाँ पे क्योंकि वो कॉस्ट ऑफ द रेफ्रिजरेटर है. अब कैन आई से एक्स्ट्रा पैसा भी लगेगा क्योंकि फिर मुझे आइसक्रीम्स बाय करके वो रेफ्रिजरेटर में रखना पड़ेगा. So I will require extra cash of say ₹1 lakh. अच्छा, same cash you will require throughout the year? Same working capital you require throughout the year? Same amount of ice creams you will keep it in the refrigerator? No. During summer season, the demand for ice creams would be more. So you will have to inject more money. You will have to inject more working capital. In winter season, the amount of requirement of working capital will be less considering our business because there will be less of demand for the ice creams. But does it mean that at any point of time in your refrigerator there will be zero ice creams? No, some amount of ice creams are always going to be there. That means some minimum amount of working capital will always be there in the business. That minimum working capital that is required, it is called as permanent working capital, and anything over and above permanent becomes temporary. मतलब मैं ऐसे बोल सकता हूँ कि एनी पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम पे कुछ ना कुछ मिनिमम तो लगेगा. अभी ये फ्लक्चुएट होते रहता है डिपेंडिंग अपॉन सीजन, ये फ्लक्चुएट होते रहता है. अब क्या ऐसे हो सकता है कि एट एनी पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम मुझे जीरो रिक्वायरमेंट लगेगा? नहीं, सम मिनिमम अमाउंट इज ऑलवेज रिक्वायर्ड. So minimum amount is always required. This minimum working capital requirement is called as permanent working capital requirement. I can call it fixed working capital और hardcore working capital. तो ये मेरा permanent requirement है, ये कभी भी zero नहीं होगा. Anything above permanent is temporary. So sir, why are you explaining all these things? What I'm telling you is, if you are giving importance only to long-term sources of finance, you are conservative. Short-term, you are becoming aggressive. But there is the third approach, which is called hedging approach, matching approach, or moderate policy, I would say. In moderate policy, what I would do, this permanent requirement, अभी आप पहले तो सोच के बताइए, fixed asset, can I say long-term asset? जब तक कंपनी रहेगा तब तक fixed assets रहेंगे. Long term assets we finance it from which sources? Long term sources, matching concept. तो जब तक वो रेफ्रिजरेटर रहेगा, कुछ amount will be locked up in the form of stock at any point of time. So can I say here this working capital also can be bifurcated into permanent and temporary. जब तक ये fixed asset रहेगा, permanent working capital भी रहेगा. So permanent working capital, I would finance it from long-term sources, and my temporary requirement, if I'm financing it from short-term sources, then such arrangement done is going to be termed as which policy? Moderate policy. You can call it hedging approach, matching approach. So we match the sources with the life of these assets. So permanent working capital, we'll finance it from long-term sources. temporary from short-term sources, and this approach of policy of working capital is called as hedging approach. So basically there are three types. Hedging approach में भी risk होगा, but risk as compared to short-term कम होगा. Conservative is the least one. So sir, which one is the apt? That you have to decide. Which one is apt? That you have to decide in practical life. कि depending upon the situation you take a call. जहां से पैसा सस्ता मिलेगा वहां से आप उठा लेना पैसा. So that depends upon your own perception and the situations that would prevail. But basically the most accepted ones would be conservative, hedging, and aggressive. So not only we have to answer how much we should arrange, but we also have to answer how to arrange that. That how to arrange is this financing of working capital requirement. Did you get that? So three approaches: conservative, less risk, so returns will be less because cost of long-term sources will be high. Moderate, in between, and aggressive, I would say maximum risk, so you can enjoy more profit, but risk is also huge. So this was about financing your working capital requirement, and I think I've covered up almost all the concepts that are needed, which can help us to take up solving of the sums as well. And we took up a few sums, select sums. More if you want, you can practice always from your study material and practice manual. And this would be the end of the chapter of estimation of working capital. Thank you so much.